Chapter 2505. Since they were phantoms, then it must be soul attacks. Luli's soul had been strengthened in the Den of Eyes, and he was protected by the dragon's soul. He was not afraid at all. He walked forward slowly. The phantoms began to move. They dashed toward Luli like a gust of wind. In the blink of an eye, they had reached Luli. Two phantoms snuck into Luli's body and then into his mind. Luli was relieved. As soon as the two phantoms entered his mind, the dragon's soul began to devour the two phantoms. The two phantoms could not stand it any longer and were devoured soon. Luli waited for a moment to make sure that he was safe. He pressed on. This time, he attracted 5 phantoms. Luli stopped to see if the dragon's soul could stand it. The dragon's soul was still very reliable. The 5 shadows rushed into the dragon's soul and were easily devoured. Luli sped up. Many phantoms whooshed toward him, but they were all devoured by the dragon's soul. Luli pressed on without any danger. The tunnel was winding. Luli could not tell how long it was. It took him the time for 3 incense sticks to burn. Finally, he reached the end. What shocked him was that there was no exit at the end of the tunnel. There was no exit at the end. There was no fork. What was going on? Luli did not believe it. He asked Blood Fairy to check. There was no exit, and there was no illusion at the end of the tunnel. Boom! Luli punched at the stone wall. A muffled sound came from it. Luli's fist could not crack it. The stone wall was horribly hard. Luli was strong. The average stone wall would not be able to stand him. There could only be one explanation. The stone wall was protected by strong runes. Blood Fairy's investigation proved this. There was no illusion here. Just like the other stone walls, there were strong runes. There was no way out. Go back. Luli thought about it and decided to go back. There must be a way out. Where are the people that came in? Since he could not see them, they must have left through the exit. Judging from this, the exit was likely to be at the entrance. Luli ran all the way back. At the entrance, he dashed in at once. After a flash of white light, Luli found himself in a desert. His speculation was right. The entrance was the exit. There are footprints. Luli looked around and was cheered up. At least some of the older warriors or the younger generation had made it here. Luli checked the surroundings for a while and then ran along the footprints. There are a lot of footprints. That group of old guys definitely wouldn't be afraid of anything. They should be flying directly. These footprints are most likely left behind by the younger generation. Luli became even more excited after some thoughts. After running for the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, he found that there were no more monsters attacking him, so he sped up. He noticed that a group of people were heading north, but he didn't know if they were on this floor. Bang! All of a sudden, without any warning, when Luli jumped onto a sand dune, the dune exploded. A huge black skeletal hand reached out in a flash. Luli had no time to react. He was grabbed by the black hand and pulled down the dune. Luli was taken aback. He had been using the trace of Great Path, but he didn't sense anything wrong. He didn't sense any movement. The hand reached out like a ghost. Luli's body was restrained by the strong force. Luckily, Luli's body was strong, so the hand couldn't crush him. Luli used the trace of Great Path to sense something. He sensed a skeletal beast that was grabbing him and dashing down the dune. That beast didn't have any signs of life. It was more like an undead. It was an ape-like undead beast with thick skeletal hands. If it weren't for the fact that Luli had a strong physical body, he would have been killed. Buzzing, Luli took out the relic iron and smashed at the skeletal hand. The skeletal hand was strong. The relic iron made a muffled sound when it was smashed, but there was a crack. Luli was cheered up. He kept on smashing with the relic iron. Soon, the skeletal hand was cracked. Luli flew out like an arrow. Swish! Another skeletal hand reached at Luli. This time, Luli was prepared. He punched out. A shadow of his fist whooshed out and landed on the skeletal hand. Bang! The skeletal hand trembled. Luli flew up with the help of the airwave and soared into the sky. However, as soon as he was in midair, he sensed something was wrong. He sensed some ripples of divine patterns. Oh no! At this moment, Luli's heart skipped a beat. He felt a strong sense of danger. His eyes darted around like lightning, and soon he saw a shocking scene. Bang, 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 bang. It was as if a hornet's nest had been poked. Many sand dunes exploded at the same time. Following that, many skeletal beasts roared out. There were those in the shape of bears, wolves, dragons, apes. There were skeletal beasts of all shapes and sizes. All of the skeletal beasts shared a common characteristic. Their bodies were extremely large. Every single one of them was either hundreds of feet tall or hundreds of feet long. All of their skeletons were black in color. Furthermore, there was a black aura swirling around them. Their eyes shone with a dark light. 4 to 500. Luli saw 4 to 500 sand dunes burst open and 4 to 500 skeletal beasts dashed out. Many skeletal beasts raised their heads and roared, making shrill noises. Luli's heart skipped a beat at the sight of their ferocious might. No wonder they are running close to the ground. Luli realized something. It was not that those people were being cautious. There must be some powerful people among them who had seen something and decided to walk in a low-key manner. Run! In a split of a second, Luli made up his mind. He took out the Godspeed boat and dashed in. He controlled the Godspeed boat to fly up. He knew there were divine patterns in the sky. The higher he went, the more skeletal beasts he would attract. But he had no other choice. Even though the skeletal beasts here might not be able to kill him, he was not sure that he could get away easily. The number of times he could use the relic iron was limited. On the off chance that he was trapped, he would be tortured to death by the skeletal beasts. He had given the Godspeed boat back to Luli. The Godspeed boat was fast. Luli was confident that the skeletal beasts could not catch up with him. As long as the skeletal beasts could not catch up, what was there to be afraid of? Swish! Soon, the Godspeed boat broke through the sky. This time, it had poked through the hornet's nest. There was a shocking scene below. The Godspeed boat transformed into a beam of light as it flew past. Countless sand dunes beneath it exploded one after another as giant skeletal beasts leaped out and charged towards the Godspeed boat. There were only hundreds of skeletal beasts at first, but as the Godspeed boat moved, there were thousands of skeletal beasts. As the Godspeed boat flew, the number of skeletal beasts would increase to tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands. Chapter 2506. In the boundless desert, a group of people was moving forward at a high speed. They were divided into 4 groups. They did not stay close to each other, but they were not too far away from each other, either. There were 30 people in each group. They were all elites. Even the weakest among them was at the peak of the 4th tribulation realm. Many of them had advanced armors, relic weapons, and all kinds of rare treasures. These people would be the top elites in any continent in the 3rd heaven. They were the young people from the 4 forces. They had been here for a long time, but none of them had died. It was enough to prove how powerful they were. The 4 forces all hated each other. However, there was only one exit on each level. Therefore, the 4 forces were very close to each other, but they didn't walk together. Bang, bang, the hill on the left exploded. A giant skeletal beast showed up. The force on the left belonged to an ancient family, the Lin family. The team didn't panic. Only 2 warriors dashed out. They were only at the later stage of the 5th tribulation realm. One of them had a golden halo in his hand, and the other had a black bead in his hand. They didn't use any powerful magic. They only used their treasures. Buzzing, the golden halo enlarged. Instead of hitting the skeletal beast, it wrapped around it. The other black bead grew to the size of man and hit the skeletal beast hard. The golden halo seemed to have an invisible magic power. The skeletal beast struggled hard, but couldn't get rid of it. Every time the black bead hit it, the skeletal beast's bones would break. Boom, boom, boom. After more than 100 hits, all the bones of the skeletal beast were broken. It turned into a pile of broken bones and couldn't move anymore. The rest of the Lin family didn't look worried at all. They were still moving forward at a leisurely pace. Those from the other 3 forces didn't pay much attention either. They had run into too many skeletal beasts along the way. If there were a lot of skeletal beasts, they would be under some pressure. But if there were only a few, they could deal with them easily. Bang, bang, bang. On the other side, the team of the Dragon Rebel tribe also ran into a skeletal beast. The Dragon Rebel Abyss didn't do anything. Only a member of the Dragon Rebel tribe dashed over. He swung an iron rod and smashed the skeletal behemoth down. After a dozen blows, the skeletal behemoth was smashed into a pile of broken bones. The four teams were rapidly advancing towards the north. Their direction had not changed at all, because the seniors of the four forces who had entered before had left obscure marks on them to guide them forward. The first few layers were the outer regions. This world had already explored 6 layers, and there were no more treasures in the outer regions. They had all been collected. Their goal was to enter the 6th floor, so they naturally wouldn't stay here for long. Bang, bang, bang. After advancing for the time it took for an incense stick to burn, a huge hill before them exploded and 2 gigantic skeletal beasts rushed out from within. These 2 skeletal beasts were different from ordinary giant beasts. Their entire bodies were golden, and there was a faint yellow glow flowing on their bodies. Their auras were terrifying. Sisterling, let me do it. The Dragon Rebel Abyss was wearing a purple and gold battle robe. He had an imposing appearance and was holding a narrow black saber in his hand. With his broad shoulders and narrow waist, he was tall and strong. He looked like a god of war. He looked at a woman in a white dress and a veil. The woman's eyes were as cold as ice. They were as cold as icebergs. Except for her eyes, the rest of her body was covered. The woman had a slim figure. Most importantly, she had an otherworldly temperament. She didn't look like a woman from the mortal world. She could make people want to conquer her somehow. Many men of the Dragon Rebel tribe looked at her with special feelings. The woman called Sister Ling was surrounded by the crowd. When the Dragon Rebel Abyss talked to her, she didn't turn around. She only nodded slightly. Boy! The Dragon Rebel Abyss let out a shrill shout. He dashed over like a mad dragon, fighting against 2 golden skeletal beasts alone. This kind of skeletal beast was obviously much more powerful than the black ones. However, the Dragon Rebel Abyss's fighting capacity was very strong. He deserved his reputation as the #1 among the young generation of the Dragon Rebel tribe. Boom, boom, boom. The Dragon Rebel Abyss's body kept flashing. The battle saber in his hand drew out many horrifying rays of light. The void space was torn apart by his attack. The sand dunes around were flattened. Many places were cut into bottomless gullies. In just a dozen breaths' time, the 2 golden skeletal beasts were cut into pieces. The Dragon Rebel Abyss put away his battle saber and flew back into the crowd. He didn't look proud at all. It seemed that he had never fought before. He brushed the dust off his body and said lightly, "Let's go. Brother Yuan is mighty. Brother Yuan is so powerful. Brother Yuan, that was the supreme secret skill that ancestor you taught you, wasn't it? It was so horrible." The young masters and young mistresses of the Dragon Rebel tribe all tried to flatter him. The Dragon Rebel Abyss waved his hand casually. He looked very calm. However, he looked at Sister Ling out of the corner of his eye. Sigh, he sighed to himself. Sister Ling didn't even look at him. He even wondered if she had watched the fight just now. It had been a long time since Sister Ling came back to the clan. He tried his best, but couldn't win her favor. This made the Dragon Rebel Abyss feel discouraged. "Let's go." He waved his hand again, and the team kept moving forward. The other 3 teams also cleared the way. They were like 4 arrowheads piercing toward the north. They didn't interfere with each other. Swish! The 4 teams ran for more than 2 hours. Suddenly, there was a loud air-piercing sound behind them. It was very sharp and attracted the attention of the 4 teams. The 4 teams stopped at the same time. Divine senses couldn't be used in this place. Everyone rushed up the hills and looked to the south. The Dragon Rebel Abyss saw a black dot in the south. He was shocked. The senior martial artists of the 4 factions should have gone to explore the depths of this mystic realm a long time ago. The younger generation was all here. They couldn't have let people in later, could they? Where did this little boat come from? This boat is so fast. It's almost as fast as a Lord Realm martial artist, right? This should be the divine speedboat. Who is it? Is it someone from our 4 factions? It's so strange. All the martial artists who came in before should have gone to the front. Why is there another one? The 4 teams were all from the super clans. Many of them knew their stuff. They recognized the divine speedboat easily. The divine speedboat was quite precious. Given their strength and status, they couldn't afford it. It could only be the martial artists of the older generation. Something isn't right, someone suddenly shouted. Soon, many people's expressions changed. The ground behind the divine speedboat started to shake. Then, the ground on their side also started to shake. Everyone opened their eyes wide and saw a group of black skeletal giant beasts on the horizon. They couldn't see the end of them. There must be tens of thousands of them. Run. Chapter 25:07. There are people here. Luli could not use psychic power, but he could use the trace of Tao to sense the surroundings. He could easily tell that there were more than 100 people ahead. Luli paused for a moment, and then he was delighted. He thought about it for the time, for one breath, and then flew the god boat to the west. The more than 100 people must be the young generation of the Four Forces. Lu Ling might be among them. Luli didn't know how powerful she was, so he could not surround her with tens of thousands of skeletal beasts. The people from the four factions were all frightened, and they all flew towards the north. When they discovered that the godly speedboat was flying towards the west, the skeletal beasts also followed it. Only a few dozen skeletal beasts were chasing after them, and they all felt relieved. Are they on our side? Young warriors of the Four Forces were confused. If they were not on their side, why would they avoid them? If they were not from the Four Forces, they would have lured the skeletal beasts to kill them all. The dozens of skeletal beasts were too fast to get rid of. Warriors of the Four Forces took actions and killed the dozens of skeletal beasts. They all stopped at the same time and looked toward the west. They were all wondering who was the person who had just boarded the god speedboat. We finally met. Inside the godly speedboat, Luli was trembling with excitement. Even though he was too far away to detect Lu Ling's presence, he had a strong feeling that Lu Ling was probably in there. What to do? Luli thought about it. It was not good to be followed by a group of skeletal beasts. If he kept on the god boat, he would attract more skeletal beasts. Then he would never be able to get rid of them. He could either rush down and find a way to avoid being chased by the skeletal beasts or go to the next level. Where's the entrance to the next level? Luli didn't know. He didn't want to wait a second longer. He wanted to see Lu Ling right away. He would be happy even if he could only see her from afar. Use the escape pellet. Luli thought about it and came up with one way, which was to use the escape pellet. Not only could it hide one's body, but it could also hide one's breath of life. Logically speaking, the humorous behemoth should not be able to sense his aura after using the escape pill, and it might not chase after him anymore. There are only 2 escape pellets left. They were meant to save lives. Luli thought about it for a while, and finally, he could not help it. First, he controlled the god speedboat to fly close to the ground. This way, he wouldn't touch the divine patterns in the air. He slowed down a little and flew close to the ground. After flying for a while, he decisively swallowed an escape pill, put away the god speedboat, and rushed out. All right. After he swallowed the escape pill, his aura disappeared. The skeletal beasts that were chasing after him all stopped and looked around in confusion. Luli made up his mind after a quick glance. He flew forward quietly. After the time for one incense stick to burn, they could no longer see the humorous beasts. Luli was overjoyed. He flew toward the northeast to track down the Four Forces. Luli had just controlled the god speedboat to fly for some distance, so he didn't dare to go too fast. He flew along the sand dunes for the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn before he could faintly hear some noises of fighting ahead. It's right ahead. Luli was getting more excited. He flew over like a ghost, and at the same time, he used the trace of Tao to sense. Soon, he found the battlefield. He didn't go too close, so he used the trace of Tao to sense from a distance. Young people. He sensed that the dozens over there were young, which cheered him up. If they were young, then the dragon rebel race must be here. Lu Ling might be here as well. Luli quietly moved toward the center of the battlefield and stopped when he was about 2 miles away. Soon, he shook his head. He sensed that the people here were unfamiliar to him. None of them was familiar. Luli didn't care anymore. He took a detour to look for the other 3 forces. After flying for a short while, he found another few dozen people. These are people from the Water Cloud Hall. After investigating them for a while, he quietly drifted away. The third team was fighting. Luli sensed and trembled. He found someone he knew, the Dragon Rebel Cloud. If the Dragon Rebel Cloud was here, then Lu Ling must be here as well. Luli moved closer at once and tried his best to sense with a trace of Tao. Soon, he trembled violently. All of a sudden, he felt tears welling up in his eyes. He saw a dreamy figure in the crowd. Even though the girl's face was covered and she was giving off a cold vibe, Luli was sure that it was Lu Ling's sister. His lips trembled as he murmured. He was 2 miles away, but at this moment, Lu Ling and the Dragon Rebel Abyss seemed to have noticed him. They looked over. Lu Li and Lu Ling looked at each other. Once again, Lu Li's mind was filled with emotions. Looking into those cold but familiar eyes, Lu Li remembered the past. "Who is it?" The next second, Lu Ling shouted. The Dragon Rebel Abyss took out his saber as well. He stared at Lu Li and said, "Who are you? Sneaking around. What are you up to? Please show yourself." Lu Li came back to his senses. He didn't know that the Dragon Rebel Abyss and Lu Ling were so powerful that they could sense him after he took the escape pellet. And they were so far away. Should I tell them who I am? Lu Li was in deep thought. It seemed that Lu Ling's memory had been sealed. Even if he told them who he was, Lu Ling wouldn't know him. As an outsider, he would be attacked by the four forces once he was discovered. Lu Li's abilities were not bad, but he was no match for the Dragon Rebel Abyss. In a split second, Lu Li decided to leave. Later, he would find a chance to talk to Lu Ling alone. He stepped back quietly. The Dragon Rebel Abyss and Lu Ling didn't go after him. They sensed something, but the Dragon Rebel Abyss couldn't tell what it was. Lu Li was like a ghost just now. They couldn't tell if he was a human or some strange beast. Therefore, the Dragon Rebel Abyss was just on guard and didn't dare to do anything rash. "Lady Ling, Brother Rebel Abyss, what is going on?" "Yes, there is nothing over there." "Is there a ghost?" The members of the Dragon Rebel clan nearby were a little bewildered because they hadn't detected anything. The two looked as if they were facing a formidable enemy. The onlookers couldn't help but feel baffled. There was a strange being just now. The Dragon Rebel Abyss thought about it and said, "Sister Ling sensed it as well, which means I was right. Be careful. Anything can happen in the Saint Emperor's relic." Surprisingly, Lu Ling took the initiative to speak at this moment. Her voice was as cold as ice. "I'm sure that it was a man just now. I don't know what kind of secret skill he used, but I don't think he is malicious. Right? He is not from the other three forces." Chapter 25:08. He's not from the other three forces? Those of the Rebel Dragon race were taken aback. All the warriors of the Rebel Dragon race were here. That man could not be from the Rebel Dragon race. If he was not from the other three forces, then he must be an outsider. This place had always been sealed off. Outsiders cannot come in. Then there were only two possibilities. Either that man was the nameless shifter emperor, or there were other entrances and exits. Someone from the outside had come in. Rebel Dragon Abyss thought for a moment and asked, "Sister Ling, are you sure he is alone? Or a stranger?" Lu Ling did not look at him. She only answered coldly, "Yes." 7. Rebel Dragon Abyss waved his hand and said, "Send this information to the other three forces. If that man dares to show up again, see if you can stop him." "Okay." A young master of the Rebel Dragon race flew over and passed the news to the people of the other three superpowers. Rebel Dragon Abyss snorted coldly and said, "No matter who he is sneaking around. One look, and we can tell he is not someone important. Next time, we will take him down and interrogate him." At this moment, Lu Ling said, "It means us no harm. On the contrary, it seems, Lu Ling did not finish her sentence. She did not know how to express herself. She seemed to have a special ability to see through Lu Li. As a matter of fact, she had seen Lu Li's eyes and made eye contact with him. She sensed Lu Li's emotions. Lu Li's eyes were filled with tears. He looked at her in excitement. That emotion did not seem to be fake. It was not the kind of emotion a man would have when he saw a beautiful woman. It was more like he had seen his family and old friends. Lu Ling was touched by Lu Li's look and expression, but she could not remember where she had seen Lu Li or how she had anything to do with him. She could only be sure of one thing. Lu Li meant her no harm. On the contrary, he must be related to her in some way. What do you mean? Rebel Dragon Abyss threw Lu Ling a strange look. This cold beauty had never shown such emotions before. Seeing that Lu Ling was silent again, Rebel Dragon Abyss waved his hand and said, "Sister Ling, you don't have much contact with the outside world. You don't know the dangers of the outside world. If this man really means no harm, or he is related to our race, why doesn't he show himself and tell us the truth? Since he was sneaking around, he must be up to no good. This kind of person was not a big deal, but a lowly character. It's fine if they don't provoke us, but since they dare to provoke us, we'll make them regret it. Let's go." Defying Dragon Abyss was the leader of the group. He ordered everyone to follow him and move forward. Lu Ling thought about it for a moment. She looked back and then ran forward with the others. Lu Li didn't go too far away. He only moved back for more than 300 miles. Making sure that the rebel dragon race was not chasing him, he stopped and stood on a sand dune. Huff, huff, he let out a long sigh and tried to calm down his agitated heart. He rubbed his face and forced a smile. At the very least, Lu Ling was doing well, and her realm seemed to be high. His position in the rebel dragon tribe should be pretty good. He had a wish before. As long as he could see Lu Ling and make sure that she was doing well, he would be relieved. If Lu Ling didn't want to go back, he would respect her decision. If not, he would bring her back even at the cost of his own life. He didn't know if Lu Ling was suffering or not, but at the very least, she seemed to be doing well. Nobody in the rebel dragon race bullied her. With this in mind, Lu Li felt much more relieved. Of course, he would not give up now that he had come this far. He would follow them and find a chance to talk to Lu Ling in private. Standing on the sand dune for a moment, Lu Li made up his mind. He followed them slowly. He kept a distance of about 300 miles. Psychic power could not be used here. Therefore, those ahead of him would not be able to find him. Since they were all walking, Lu Li could detect the footprints. He just had to follow the footprints. Following Lu Ling was a good thing. He didn't have to worry about the skeletal beasts anymore. He could move forward in peace. Lu Li told himself to be patient. At least on this level, he wouldn't have a chance to see Lu Ling. The rebel dragon race was not separated. Once he approached Lu Ling, he would be attacked by powerful warriors of the rebel dragon race. He was not strong enough to fight against the rebel dragon abyss. Along the way, Lu Li noticed that the rebel dragon race had sent out a scout. Fortunately, he had been sensing with the marks of the great Tao. He found the scout easily. He went around the scout and moved on. After more than half a day, he saw an oasis. The four forces had all entered the oasis. They seemed to be resting in the oasis. Lu Li didn't dare to move closer. He hid in the distance. This wait lasted for 2 days, but there was no movement from this group of people. Lu Li was confused. Even if they were resting, it would take them more than half a day. 1 day was not a big deal. It was impossible for them to stay still for 2 days. The only possibility was that the exit was in the oasis and they had entered the next level from the oasis. Lu Li quietly snuck towards the oasis. As he expected, the oasis was quiet and there was no one there. After Lu Li entered the oasis, he walked around but couldn't find any exits. Did they vanish from the face of the earth? Lu Li blinked. He turned to the lake at the center of the oasis. He dashed into the lake. After a while, he found a hidden cave at the bottom of the lake. There was a faint glow in the cave. Clearly, it was the exit. Lu Li stood at the entrance and waited for a while. Then he decided to go in directly. The four forces would stay in the oasis for at most 1 day. That meant that they had been in the next level for 1 day. Theoretically speaking, there shouldn't be anyone waiting at the entrance. After Lu Li rushed in, a ray of white light flashed by and he appeared on a cliff. The cliff was unique. It was long and narrow. On both sides of the cliff was a bottomless abyss. The bottom of the cliff was dark and surrounded by black fog. Lu Li could not tell what was at the bottom. Lu Li took a few steps forward. He looked into the bottom of the cliff and then into the sky. He walked toward the other side of the cliff. Right at that moment, there was a faint glow under his feet. The glow disappeared in a flash, without leaving any trace on the ground. "What?" Luli frowned. He looked down and shouted, "Blood Fairy, reach under my feet. See if there are any traces of glyphs." Blood Fairy extended her tentacles, and after a short moment, she transmitted, "Master, you once placed a small divine rune under your feet, but you destroyed it. This divine rune has no offensive power. It can only be used as a warning." *T. Luli exclaimed to himself that he had been too careless. He liked to build such glyphs. Since he had stepped on one, the one who built the glyphs must have known that someone was coming. Previously, the Rebel Dragon race could sense him. Later, the Rebel Dragon race sent someone to track him down. Luli believed that the glyphs were built under the orders of the Rebel Dragon race. Chapter 2509. He is here. As expected, the Dragon Rebel Abyss knew as soon as Luli stepped on the divine glyph. He was walking on a cliff. He didn't spread the news and just walked on in silence. After a while, he stopped and said to the others, "Go on. I will go and have a chat with Shui Yuuro and Lin Fengyan, Brother Rebel Abyss." The others were anxious and confused. What was the Dragon Rebel Abyss trying to do? Wasn't he afraid that he would be ambushed by the other three forces if he went alone? If Luli died, the Dragon Rebel race would suffer a great loss. "What are you thinking? Do they have the guts to kill me? Okay, go on. Leave a mark on the way." The Dragon Rebel Abyss waved his hand and rushed into the distance. His comprehensive abilities could be compared to the peak of the fifth tribulation, and he had many treasures. The Dragon Rebel Abyss was confident. What was more, he was the most powerful young master of the Dragon Rebel race. He believed the other three forces would not be so reckless. If they killed him, then they would be falling out with the Dragon Rebel race. The Dragon Rebel race was still out there. The other three forces would have to pay a heavy price in his rage. Even though the Dragon Rebel Abyss didn't know who Luli was, the fact that he was following Luli made him uncomfortable. The treasured land belonged to the four forces. He would not allow the other forces to encroach on it. He believed that the other three forces were of the same mind. If so, then it would be easier to negotiate. As expected, he went to meet the leaders of the other three forces. Not only did they not do anything to him, but they cooperated. One of them walked out and went with the Dragon Rebel Abyss to meet the others. The four leaders gathered together. The Dragon Rebel Abyss told them the situation. The other three were upset. The four forces all thought the treasured land was their backyard. Now that someone from other forces had come in, how could they tolerate it? After a moment of discussion, the four of them split up, but they didn't want to deal with Luli on this level. There were only cliffs on this level. There was no good place for an ambush. They planned to ambush Luli on the next level and kill him directly. When the Dragon Rebel Abyss came back, he said nothing. He just led the team forward quickly. This level was easy to go through as long as they didn't fall off the cliffs. Of course, they could not fly up. They had to follow the cliffs. The cliffs here were crisscrossed like a maze. This was not a difficult task for the people from the four major powers, because they had already explored this place before. They already knew the route to the next level, so it was not a problem for them. The group of people quickly moved forward and soon disappeared above the crisscrossing cliffs. Luli thought about it for a while and continued to chase after them. He had no other choice. So far, he hadn't found a teleportation channel. He couldn't stay in there forever, right? He could only continue forward. He soon discovered that there were crisscrossing cliffs everywhere. They were so densely packed that no one knew which way to go. However, he was sure of one thing. He couldn't fly here because there were divine runes on it. He did not dare to fly down the cliff. It was all black fog down there. Who knew what was down there? Luli used the trace of the great path to sense the ground. He noticed some footprints on the ground. If he had to rely on his eyes, he would not be able to find them. But with the trace of the great path, Luli could see some traces. He followed the footprints all the way. The journey was very safe. He ran on the top of the cliff without encountering any danger. He followed the footprints for a day and a half. Finally, he saw the exit. There was a cave on the cliff. He found footprints at the entrance of the cave, but there were no other footprints nearby. The exit must be inside the cave. Luli flew into the cave. He did not rush in. Instead, he tried to sense the surroundings. Then, he let Blood Fairy out to see if there were any divine runes of warning or if there were powerful warriors lying in ambush. No one. There are divine runes. Blood Fairy came back after a while. There were many divine runes in here, and the arrangement was done in an ingenious way. If Luli did not use the trace of the Great Path or use psychic power, he would not be able to find them with his eyes. Well, Luli thought about it. If the Dragon Rebel Abyss had done this, then there might be an ambush at the entrance to the next level. If Luli teleported to a fixed location, he would fall into an ambush. If 30 of the Dragon Rebel race were to attack him at the same time, no matter how strong his defense was, he would be killed in an instant. Should he reveal his identity? Luli knew the Dragon Rebel cloud. He had made a deal with the Dragon Rebel race and met the Dragon Rebel Abyss once. But was this enough? Could the Dragon Rebel Abyss let him go? Luli was not sure. He had met the Dragon Rebel Abyss once. Luli knew that the Dragon Rebel Abyss was arrogant and overbearing. The Dragon Rebel Abyss would not even respect a family patriarch at the peak of the Fifth Tribulation, let alone Luli. Luli had entered their forbidden area, and he had done so quietly. Given the Dragon Rebel Abyss's temper, would they let him go? Luli was not willing to take the risk. Therefore, he decided to cultivate here for a period of time, for a month. He believed that the Dragon Rebel Abyss and the group of young people would not wait for a month. It would be safer to go in after a month. Anyway, he had met Lu Ling once. He was sure that she was not suffering or being bullied. For now, he could put his mind at ease. He believed that they would meet again later. There was no hurry. Closed door cultivation. Luli asked Blood Fairy to protect him while he cultivated in the cave. He continued to study the Heaven Armor skill, which was about to be completed. The Dragon Rebel Abyss and the others were waiting for Luli at the entrance to the next level. They were sitting in a valley with their legs crossed. Four teams sat in different corners. The 120 powerful warriors were all waiting for Luli to come in. The four forces believed that this peerless land of treasure belonged to them, and they would not allow anyone else to have a share of it. In particular, they did not know where Luli came from, which worried them. On the off chance that there was another entrance to this peerless land of treasure, and the four forces did not know about it, the treasures here would be taken away while they were fighting fiercely outside. By then, the four forces would lose their minds. The Dragon Rebel Abyss did not say much to the Dragon Rebel race. He just told them to rest and set up camp. Before they came in, they had received orders from their families to follow the orders of the Dragon Rebel Abyss. Therefore, even though many were confused, they did not say anything. Instead, the other three forces were all in the valley. They were on guard. The leaders of the other three forces had given orders not to make any trouble and to cultivate and rest in their camps. There was no treasure at the moment. There was no need to fight to the death. Time passed day by day. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed. The Dragon Rebel Abyss was worried that Luli had not come in. The Dragon Rebel Abyss did not mind if it went on like this. What they were worried about was that the rest of the Dragon Rebel race and the other forces could not sit still. By then, there would be disputes and chaos. I will wait for 5 more days. If he is still not here, then I will not wait any longer. I will find a chance to kill him. The Dragon Rebel Abyss made up his mind after some thoughts. Someone in the Dragon Rebel race could not sit still anymore. The Dragon Rebel Abyss could not wait any longer. He was afraid that something big would happen. Chapter 25:10. They didn't have to wait for 5 days. 3 days later, something happened, and it happened in the Dragon Rebel clan and the Water Cloud Palace. Maybe Lu Ling didn't agree to ambush Luli. She felt bored staying in the valley. Therefore, she left the valley with the other young lady, ready to have a look around. Lu Ling's unique temperament had attracted the attention of young masters from the other three forces. She had never shown herself before, and her realm was unclear. Therefore, those from the Water Cloud Hall thought she was just an average young lady. 2 young masters of the Water Cloud Hall sneaked out. There was a small lake nearby. They thought Lu Ling and the other young lady were going to take a bath and wanted to enjoy the beauty coming out of the bath. Lu Ling could sense Lu Li's presence even though he was invisible. Naturally, the two young masters found her. She didn't mind at first. She wandered around with the young lady. However, the two young masters grew impatient after a while. They stopped the two young masters and flirted with them. The other young lady was too angry to say anything. Her realm was good, but she had little practical experience. The two young masters from the Water Cloud Hall were at the middle stage of the fifth tribulation. The young lady wanted to take Lu Ling back to report this to the Dragon Rebel pool. Unexpectedly, Lu Ling made a move right away. She killed a young master in one move. She did it in a clean and efficient way without any hesitation. The other young master was frightened, but he reacted quickly. He screamed at once, alerting those from the Water Cloud Hall in the valley. The young lady from the Dragon Rebel race sent out a distress signal as well. The Dragon Rebel pool rushed out with his men. By the time those from the two sides came out, the remaining young master's hands and feet had been cut off by Lu Ling. He was a bloody ball of flesh rolling on the ground. Howling, those from the Water Cloud Hall flew into a rage. They were about to attack Lu Ling naturally. The Dragon Rebel pool and the others were unwilling. They all activated the Dragon Rebel blood seal and were ready to fight. The other two forces were alarmed as well. They came out with people to mediate. While they were asking about the cause, Lu Ling pointed to the man who had turned into a ball of flesh and said coldly, "I didn't kill him. I kept him alive for you to ask. You can ask them what they did." The other young lady of the Dragon Rebel race accused the two at once. The Dragon Rebel race was enraged when they learned that someone from the Water Cloud Hall had flirted with a young lady of their race. More importantly, Lu Ling was of high status. Enraged, the Dragon Inverse pool did not care about anything else. In front of the experts of the Water Cloud Palace, he killed the young master who had turned into a meatball. The sparks were ignited at the slightest provocation. The situation couldn't be suppressed any longer. The tangled battle between the Dragon Rebel clan and the Water Cloud Palace broke out. Those from the other two forces stopped trying to persuade them. The deaths and injuries of these two clans would be beneficial to their future treasure hunt. If more people died, the competition would naturally weaken. The two sides were fighting fiercely. However, the overall strength of the Dragon Rebel clan was stronger. That was because even the weakest among them was at Dragon Rebel Yun's level. After awakening the inverse dragon blood seal, his fighting capacity could be compared to the middle stage of the fifth Culpa tribulation. The Water Cloud Palace, on the other hand, had experts in the early stage of the fifth tribulation, even though all of them were in the fifth tribulation. In addition, the Dragon Rebel tribe had incredible defense after they had awakened the Rebel Dragon blood seal. The Dragon Rebel abyss was full of treasures. Therefore, the Water Cloud Palace was suppressed. Of course, it was not that the Water Cloud Palace did not have any experts. The first young master, Shui Yuro's battle prowess was ferocious, and she had a sovereign weapon. She was evenly matched with the Dragon Oppressive pool. The battle lasted for 2 hours. There were casualties on both sides. The Dragon Rebel tribe lost 8 warriors, and more than a dozen were injured. The Water Cloud Palace lost 10 warriors. Including the 2 who died earlier, there were 12 warriors in total. Many others were wounded. Shui Yuero took a look at the situation and knew they could not go on like this. She left with her warriors at once. The Dragon Rebel Abyss didn't dare to linger either. Should the other 2 forces join hands to attack them, the Dragon Rebel tribe would be wiped out. Once the Dragon Rebel tribe left, the other 2 forces lost the patience to wait here. Otherwise, the treasures would all be taken by the Dragon Rebel tribe and the Water Cloud Palace. The 4 forces left. Soon, peace was restored in the valley. Only blood and some broken limbs were left outside the valley. Lu Li cultivated outside for a month in peace. He was not in a hurry to go in. He was still cultivating because he had made great progress in the Heaven Armor skill. He was about to master it. Lu Li believed he could master it in about 10 days or half a month. He didn't mind waiting. It would be safer if he went in later. He continued to cultivate to study the Heaven Armor skill. 9 days later, a ray of golden light came out from Lu Li's body. If someone could see into his body, they would see that there were 3 layers of golden net inside him. With the 3 layers of net, his physical defense would be even stronger. This was the unique skill of Tion Yazi. Not even his descendants passed it on to them. Nice! Luli opened his eyes and shouted happily. Given his physical strength and the dragon skill and the heaven armor skill, he was confident that he could survive one strike from a warrior at the peak of the 5th tribulation. Let's go. He stood up and rested for a while. Then, he dashed into the tunnel and entered the valley. As soon as he came out, he used the dragon skill and the heaven armor skill. But it was quiet in the valley. Not a soul was in sight. Well, Luli nodded when he saw that there were more camps around. He was right. The dragon rebel abyss and the others had been lying in ambush here. But it had been too long. They must have run out of patience and left. Luli didn't move after he came out. He asked Blood Fairy to check the surroundings. Making sure that there were no divine patterns, he walked out of the valley slowly. Soon he saw the bloodstains and broken limbs. A fight must have broken out. Luli frowned. He did not know which side had started the fight. Would Lu Ling be in danger? That being said, Lu Ling seemed to enjoy a high status with the Dragon Rebel race. The powerful warriors of the Dragon Rebel race would not let anything happen to her. Luli was a bit relieved. Let's go. Luli took a look and dashed forward. He could see footprints on the ground. It seemed that he could not fly here. He had to walk on his feet. What? A moment later, Luli found some footprints. The 4 teams must have split up. Luli was worried. How could he tell which team belonged to the Dragon Rebel race? Just by looking at the footprints. The footprints were similar. After a moment, Luli decided not to think too much. He followed a random set of footprints. After all, he should be able to reach the exit by following any team. This was a forest, a dense, primeval forest. There was no path here. Therefore, the tracks left by the teams ahead were obvious. Luli noticed that there were herbs here as well. Many of them had been picked. Some were not ripe yet. It was pointless to pick them now. It would be a waste. Swish, on his way, Luli saw a huge flower to his left. While he was still a little astonished, the flower suddenly moved. Like the mouth of a giant beast, it suddenly attacked him and enveloped him within. Plants and trees have come to life. Luli was not alarmed. He sensed that the flower was releasing a yellowish liquid that was corrosive. He nodded. The flower was quite powerful. If an average warrior at the peak of the 4th tribulation was swallowed by the flower, that warrior would be consumed alive. Boom! A flying sword appeared in Luli's hand. After a while, the flower was cut open. Luli dashed out. Then, the green sword came back and minced the flower into pieces. The world is full of wonders. Let's go. Chapter 25:11. Vines, brambles, trees, black grasses, fruits. Luli walked in the forest for 4 to 5 days and encountered all kinds of attacks. For example, some of the trees were covered with fruits. When he walked over, those fruits would come at him, which could be as powerful as a 5th tribulation warrior. Those fruits would explode when they bumped into people. If the victim was not mentally prepared and did not have a strong defense, the victim would be blasted to death by those fruits. There was also some black grasses. Those grasses were not meant to entangle the victim. Instead, they would pierce into the victim's body to suck away divine energy and blood. If it were not for the fact that Luli reacted fast enough to use his flying sword at once those grasses entered his body, the consequences would be unimaginable. In addition to plants, there were some small animals, such as some adorable birds. The feathers on the birds would suddenly shoot out with great power. Not even warriors at the peak of the 4th tribulation could survive that. Luli felt this world had changed. Maybe this was really a land of treasure? Was this a place where Saint Emperor refined treasures? This world was not rich in Xianqi in heaven and earth. How come all the plants, flowers, birds, fishes, and insects had changed? Luli did collect some herbs. He did not know what they were, but they should be of good quality. He decided not to worry. He would collect them first. After 4 to 5 days, Luli found the entrance to the next level. Actually, he did not find it. He found it by following the traces left by the team. The entrance was in a tree hole. As usual, Luli asked Blood Fairy to check. There were runes in the tree hole. Luli asked Blood Fairy to decipher the runes. After a flash of white light, Luli found himself in a strange world. This world was vast and misty, and the light here was very dim. There was a faint yellow haze in the sky, and this place gave him the feeling that it was a chaotic world with a desolate and ancient aura. Luli stood where he was. He looked up to the sky. At this moment, he felt insignificant. He felt he had become a grain of sand by the seaside, and the world was a boundless ocean. He felt as if he was standing in the ruins of a city, and the afterglow of the setting sun shone on the city. His heart was filled with desolation and loneliness. This was a very wonderful and charming feeling. It was as if the Tao of heaven and earth existed everywhere, and the true essence of the laws could be seen everywhere. Luli stood where he was for a long time. He didn't move. He just stared into the void, at the weathered stones around him, and at the half of a slab buried in the ground in the distance. After a long time, one day or two, Luli finally woke up. He had an epiphany in his heart. Perhaps this world contained some of the true essence of the heavenly Tao, but it was not something that ordinary people could comprehend or grasp. The law's true meaning and heavenly Tao's charm here were too profound. If the law's true meaning he had come into contact with before were a pond, then this place was a vast starry sky. With his current ability, it was impossible for him to comprehend it. It was difficult for him to even comprehend the slightest bit of it. Therefore, he decided to stop studying. Instead, he followed the footsteps. He was not here to seek opportunities. He just wanted to meet Lu Ling and have a good chat with her. Half a day later, Lu Li suddenly noticed something strange. The footprints had disappeared. He circled around the area and found that the footprints had indeed suddenly disappeared, which made him very surprised. There were divine patterns in the sky as well, so it was impossible for people to fly. Then why did all the footprints disappear? Luli could not figure it out, but after he walked around for an hour, he understood. Whoosh, whoosh. A gust of wind came from afar. Luli looked over and saw a black line in the distance. The black line was coming toward him. It was a huge tornado. The tornado was so fast that by the time Luli realized what was going on, the tornado was already upon him. Then, a strong force restrained him. He could not move. He was dragged into the tornado. Luli sensed that there were people in the tornado, quite a lot of them. There must be 50 or 60 of them. None of them could move. They could only spin around in the tornado. Soon, Luli's attention was attracted by a graceful figure. Lu Ling was in there. There really is someone. Dragon Rebel Abyss was in there as well. His fierce eyes were filled with anger. He stared at Lu Li and shouted, "It is you? How did you get in here?" Luli did not answer Dragon Rebel Abyss's question. He closed his eyes and sensed that he could not control his body and divine energy. Luli was more confident now. Dragon Rebel Abyss was in there as well. He was surprised to see Lu Li and then asked, "Brother Lu, how did you get in here? How did you get in?" Some of the Dragon Rebel race had seen Luli before. They were all surprised. Dragon Rebel Abyss once said that someone had sneaked into the land of treasures. They didn't expect that it was Lu Li. Who is he? Lin Fengyun, who was wearing a black robe, was in the tornado as well. He asked. Dragon Rebel Abyss thought about it and said, "This man has been to the Dragon Rebel race. As for his identity, I don't know." Luli was relieved to find that he could not move or attack. He said with a smile, "It doesn't matter who I am. I'm not here to take the treasures. I just came in by accident. I will leave as soon as I find the exit. I will not interfere with you." It is easy to get in, but difficult to get out. You want to leave? Lin Fengyun sneered and said coldly, "Where did you get in? Tell me the details, or else." Or else what? Luli blinked and said, "Or else you can kill me." Ha ha ha. Lin Fengyun laughed. Looking at Luli coldly, he said, "You, a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation, how can you be so arrogant? It is so easy to kill you." "Is that so?" Luli said non-committally. "Then why don't you try? Since they were all in the tornado and couldn't move, it must be difficult to attack." His divine energy was messed up. He didn't believe that the others could release powerful attacks. Lin Shan, Lin Fengyan shouted. A young master not far away from Lu Li had two streaks of blue glow in his eyes. The glow penetrated into Lu Li's body. Clearly, it was a soul attack. Young Master Lin, please wait. Dragon Rebel Abyss wanted to say something, but the blue glow had gone into Lu Li's body. Dragon Rebel Abyss couldn't finish his words. Lu Li felt two streaks of energy surging into his soul like electric snakes. He mobilized his soul energy at once, and the dragon's soul glowed to protect his soul. It's okay. The two soul attacks were not so bad. The dragon's soul was slow, but it could withstand it. After the time for one breath, Lu Li opened his eyes and said coldly, "It is impolite not to reciprocate. Have a taste of my soul attack." Buzzing, a soft sword appeared in Lu Li's hand. The sword began to shake. Lu Li released the law of sound. Divine energy was messed up, but it didn't affect the release of the law of sound. That Lin Shan was not far away from Lu Li. As soon as Lu Li's soul ripples spread out, Lin Shan was hit. Though Lin Shan's enchanted soul was not of a high level, his soul was strong. He managed to withstand the attack for a moment, but soon he began to scream in pain like an injured crow. What? Lin Fengyan and the others looked at each other, speechless. Lin Shan's soul attack was not strong, but it was not bad. How could he lose to a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation? Chapter 25:12. Dragon and Yun was the only one here who knew about Lu Li's abilities. Lu Li had killed several warriors of the fifth tribulation with soul attacks. Seeing how miserable Lin Shan was, Dragon and Yun sent a message to Lin Shan. "Brother Lu, spare him when you can. Don't make a scene." Lu Li took back the soul needles and stopped attacking Lin Shan. Lin Shan felt better after a moment of rest. He didn't do anything drastic. Instead, he glared at Lu Li and closed his eyes to rest. "I can't tell that you are a powerful warrior of soul." While spinning around, Lin Fengyan sneered at Lu Li, "But do you think you could defeat all of us with soul attacks? Do you think we don't have any other means apart from soul attacks?" Lin Fengyan looked better after Lu Li stopped attacking Lin Shan. He was afraid of hurting Lu Li. If he couldn't kill Lu Li and Lu Li killed more than half of the powerful warriors of the Lin family, it would not be worth it. Lin Shan's soul was strong. If he couldn't stand Lu Li's soul attacks, then only a few of the dozens of warriors of the Lin family could. If Lu Li went on a killing spree, then most of them would die. Lu Li said with a smile. "I don't think so. I will not attack unless I am attacked first. As I said, I came in by accident. I will leave as soon as I find the exit, and I will not stay in here." "All right, Lin Fengyan," Dragon Rebel Cloud said. "Forget about him. Let's think of a way to get out of the tornado. If we are stuck here, then what is the point of saying anything else?" Lin Fengyan understood at once. Now is not the time to argue with Lu Li in case something uncontrollable happened. As long as they could get out of the tornado, it would be a piece of cake to kill Lu Li. They turned their attention away from Lu Li. They closed their eyes to sense the situation in the tornado, trying to find a way out. There is a strange force in the tornado that confined their bodies, making it difficult for them to move. More importantly, their divine energy was messed up. Divine energy was the source of their strength. When it was messed up, their abilities would be compromised. It had been several days since they were trapped. They had tried many ways, but none of them could move, let alone get out. He could only drift along with the tornado, but he didn't know where it would end up. Lu Li was delighted to see that no one was paying attention to him. He forced himself not to look at Lu Ling and closed his eyes. When he activated the trace of Tao, Lu Ling's face appeared clearly in his mind. In the next second, a cold voice sounded in Lu Li's mind. "Don't you know that it's rude to peep at others?" Lu Li's heart skipped a beat. She had taken the initiative to talk to him. He was trembling with excitement. But soon he calmed down. Lu Ling's tone was cold. Clearly, she did not know him. If he were to send a message to her, she would be disgusted. He thought for the time for 10 breaths before he replied. "Do you remember the name Lu Ling? Do you remember Heaven Reverse Universe? Remember the D Long tribe? Do you still remember your younger brother, who grew up with you?" Psychic power could not be used here, so it was difficult to send a message. Fortunately, Lu Li and Lu Ling were not far away from each other. Lu Li could use some soul energy to send a message. Lu Li asked several questions. Lu Ling's facial expressions were hidden under the veil, but she seemed to be in a daze. Then suddenly she was in pain. She closed her eyes and let out some muffled moans of pain. Her voice was low. The only thing that could be heard was the howling of the wind. That being said, all the powerful warriors here had sharp hearing. Dragon Rebel Pool had been paying attention to Lu Ling. He asked with concern, "Sister Ling, what's wrong? Are you okay?" "Sister Ling, what's wrong? What's wrong?" Lady Ling. People nearby asked with concern. Unfortunately, they could not move, or else they would have surrounded her. Lu Li's eyes were filled with concern as well, but he dared not to say too much. He was regretting that he should not have been so rash. Clearly, Lu Ling's memory was sealed by a powerful warrior. That warrior might be at the same level as the Dragon Rebel force. Lu Li's words had stirred up a tremor in the depth of Lu Ling's soul. That was why she was in so much pain. Once Lu Ling's past was evoked, and there was a possibility of her recalling the past, the memory seal would attack her soul. She would not be able to think about it anymore. In this way, she would never be able to break the memory seal. "I am okay. Don't worry about me." After the time for one incense stick to burn, Lu Ling opened her eyes and said. Then, she closed her eyes again as if she was resting. Dragon Rebel Pool was still paying attention to Lu Ling. Several others were looking at her as well. Lu Ling didn't pay attention to them. She asked Lu Li again, "Who are you?" Lu Li thought about it. He didn't dare to evoke more of her memory for fear that something might go wrong with her soul. He thought about it and said, "I'm a friend of yours, a very good friend. You don't remember me now, but it doesn't matter. Don't overthink it. I mean you no harm. I just want to ask you, how have you been living in the Dragon Rebel Valley all these years?" "Very good friend?" Lu Ling's eyelashes twitched. She murmured in a voice that only she could hear. She said nothing. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, she said, "I know you mean no harm. Also, I feel close to you. I don't think we are friends. Family or lovers? Can you tell me?" "Family or lovers." Lu Li paused for a moment, but then he was happy. At least, Lu Ling felt close to him, which made him happy. This time, without any hesitation, he replied, "We are family, the dearest family." "Well, don't think about it too much. Otherwise, you will trigger the seal on your memory again, which will hurt your soul." "Dearest family?" Lu Ling murmured. Then she trembled. Veins popped out on her forehead. She was trembling, and she was moaning in pain. "Sister Ling." Dragon Rebel Pool had been paying attention to Lu Ling. He shouted anxiously. He twisted his body as if he was trying to get rid of the strong force and move closer to Lu Ling. The others looked at Lu Ling with concern. Lu Li was worried, but he didn't dare to say anything at the moment. He forced himself to close his eyes and sense through the trace of the great path. Lin Fengyun and the others looked at Lu Ling with curiosity. This lady was mysterious. The Lin family didn't have much information about her. If it weren't for the fact that Lu Ling came out, Lin Fengyun wouldn't even know about her. Seeing how concerned Dragon Rebel Pool and the others were, Lin Fengyun and the others took note. This lady must have a high status in the Dragon Rebel race. It seemed that Dragon Rebel Pool liked her very much. Passed out? Lu Li checked for a while and realized that Lu Ling had passed out. He felt bitter. The seal on her memory must be strong. It was almost impossible for Lu Ling to break the seal on her own. Only powerful warriors of the Dragon Rebel race could help her, or Lu Li could find someone to help her. Well. Chapter 25:13. Lu Ling woke up after 6 hours of unconsciousness. Lu Li didn't dare to talk to her anymore. He had been sensing the surroundings with his eyes closed. The memory seal in her mind was too strong. If he were to evoke her memory again, she would suffer for no reason. Lu Ling didn't open her eyes after she woke up. She closed her eyes to rest. She was a bit panicked and even scared. She didn't dare to think too much. Maybe she was afraid of remembering something or the tearing pain in her soul. Lu Li checked and found that Lu Ling was stable. He didn't worry about her anymore. He tried to sense the tornado to see how he could get out. If he could get out and bring someone with him, then everything would be perfect. He took Lu Ling away and then tried to find an exit to find Tian Yazi. The Dragon Rebel Abyss and Lin Fengyan were giving him a lot of pressure. If they were the first to solve the problem, then dozens of people would attack him. He would die even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms. Even if the Dragon Rebel Abyss didn't do anything, the Lin family would be enough to make him suffer. To solve the tornado, he must solve the mysterious force that was shrouding him. As long as he could solve the mysterious force, he could get out easily and take anyone with him. Lu Li calmed himself down and used the trace of Tao to sense everything around him and the mysterious force that was shackling him. The force was strange. It was shapeless and colorless. He didn't know where it came from. Wait, Lu Li thought about it. No force would appear for no reason. This mysterious force didn't seem to be released by the inhibition formations in the secret realm. Lu Li thought about it and focused on the tornado. The mysterious force must be from the tornado. That was to say, this tornado was different from regular ones. When the tornado was moving, it created a strong force that affected everyone and everything that was sucked in. If so, then he must start with the tornado. Lu Li used the trace of Tao to sense the movement pattern of the tornado. He didn't care about anything else. He focused all his attention on the tornado. Even Lu Ling was surprised. Why didn't Lu Li come to see her? Lu Li sensed for 4 days and realized something. This tornado was different from normal tornadoes. Normally, the wind in a tornado would circle around in a certain direction, but the wind here followed a strange path and intertwined with each other. Some of the wind was actually blowing in the opposite direction. Countless gusts of wind interweaved together, forming an invisible net. In other words, countless gusts of wind blew according to a certain pattern, forming a heaven and earth divine array. Since he had found the problem, it wouldn't be too difficult to solve it. He was just afraid that he wouldn't be able to find anything and would end up running around like a headless fly. Lu Li memorized the path of the wind and sent it to Blood Fairy. Since it was a formation of heaven and earth, it was best to leave it to Blood Fairy. As long as there was a complete formation pattern, Blood Fairy could analyze it and find a way to break it. As a matter of fact, the Lin family and the Dragon Rebel clan could tell that this tornado was unusual. During this time, everyone had been thinking about it and tried many ways. However, they were not proficient in divine patterns. They had been trying to improve their abilities. When would they have the time to study divine patterns? Lu Li spent 8 days to send all the patterns in the tornado to Blood Fairy. He didn't care about what happened next. Blood Fairy was very accomplished in divine patterns. She could even solve the divine patterns in the Den of Ice. This should not be a big deal. Lu Li floated in the air and spun with the tornado. He checked Lu Ling. She was in closed-door cultivation, so he didn't disturb her. He began to cultivate as well. The Xinshi in heaven and earth in the tornado was dense, hundreds or thousands of times more than in the Dragon Rebel Valley. Maybe it was because the tornado was constantly absorbing Xinshi from the outside. It was pleasant to cultivate here. While Blood Fairy was analyzing, Lu Li was not in a hurry. He was confident that if Blood Fairy could not solve it, the others would not be able to either. His safety was not a concern. Soon, 6 days passed. Today, a shout startled Lu Li. Someone from the Lin family yelled, "Look over there!" Everyone looked in that direction and saw that there was also a tornado over there. There were quite a number of people in the tornado as well, roughly 40 to 50 people. It seemed that the people from the Water Cloud Palace and the other great clan, the Fan Clan, were in the other tornado. When they saw the 2 tornadoes approaching each other, they were taken aback. Would the 2 tornadoes merge into one? At that time, he would be able to capture all the people from the 4 major powers in one fell swoop. What they were worried about happened. The 2 tornadoes approached each other. With a boom, the 2 tornadoes merged into one. But there was no explosion, and no one was smashed away. Instead, they were still enveloped by that mysterious force and spinning in the air. Phew, the 2 tornadoes turned into one huge tornado. More than 100 people were sucked into it. They were so densely packed together that they looked like boulders. The sound of the wind grew louder, but the atmosphere in the room became tense. Those from the Dragon Rebel clan and the Water Cloud Palace were glaring at each other. Ah, ha, ha, ha. Someone's laughter broke the silence. A young master from the Hall of Water Cloud said, "Dragon Rebel, what are you staring at? Come and bite me if you don't like it." Right. Dragon Rebel clan. Don't you have a Dragon Rebel blood seal? Wake up and come and kill us. You're glaring at us like this. We're so scared. Tisk TSK. Girls of the Dragon Rebel clan are so pretty. Look, their dresses are fluttering and their legs are showing. They're so attractive. I am drooling. Such a shame. Young ladies of the Dragon Rebel clan cannot marry outside the clan. Nobody has tasted a young lady of the Dragon Rebel clan. Is it because she is different from other girls? Is there something special about her? The words became more and more unbearable. A while ago, a big fight broke out outside the valley, and the Hall of Water Cloud suffered losses. The number of casualties was much higher than that of the Dragon Rebel clan. The Hall of Water Cloud was forced to flee. Everyone was burning with anger. They were all trapped and could not move. Naturally, they would vent their anger verbally. Shui Yuero, Dragon Rebel Pool, noticed many people were looking at Lu Ling. She was wearing pants, but a part of her calves were still visible. Many people were staring at her, which made Dragon Rebel Pool furious. He didn't quarrel with those people because of his status. Instead, he looked at Shui Yuero, the most powerful young master of the Hall of Water Cloud, and said, "Is this what the Hall of Water Cloud is made of? Control your dogs. Don't make me look down on you." Ha. Shui Yuero's name sounded like a girl's, and his looks were feminine. He spoke in a neutral tone as well, giving people the feeling that he was a viper hiding in the dark. Shui Yuero said with a smile, "They're not my dogs. They're my brothers. It is their mouths that I cannot control. How about you do me a favor and go and tear their mouths off?" Chapter 25:14. For Lu Ling was like his sister and his parents. It could be said that Lu Ling was more important to him than his parents. She was the most important person in his life. Dragons had a reverse scale. Anyone who touched it would die. Lu Ling was Lu Li's reverse scale. When they came over, many of them were casting evil glances at Lu Ling, which made Lu Li furious. These people actually dared to blaspheme him? This hurt him more than the scraping. Shui Yuero and the others were surprised by Lu Li's sudden words. It was not until then that people from the Hall of Water Cloud and the Fan family realized that there was an outsider here. He was a complete stranger and definitely not from the Dragon Rebel race or the Lin family. "Who are you?" Shui Yuero stared at Lu Li and said coldly, "You are talking big. Do you want to become enemies with our Water Cloud Hall? Whose pants aren't fastened properly? Did he let this guy out? He's so arrogant. He wants to tear our mouths apart. Where did this bastard come from? He actually dares to boast so shamelessly? Tear us apart if you have the guts. When we get out of here, we'll make sure this brat dies a horrible death." Warriors of the Hall of Water Cloud were enraged. They stared at Lu Li and shouted, "How could an unknown warrior at the peak of the third tribulation be so arrogant?" Although they couldn't move, they couldn't suffer such humiliation. Lu Li took out his soft sword. First of all, he aimed at a man who was clamoring. He shook the soft sword slightly, and many invisible sword waves spread out and enveloped the man. Soon, the man's face was filled with pain as he screamed. He couldn't move his hands and feet, so he could only twist his body and let out miserable screams. Ugh! Warriors from the Hall of Water Cloud were dumbfounded. They didn't expect that Lu Li would really make a move. Even though Lu Li just shook his soft sword, one of them was hit. Soul attack. Everyone here had messed up their god powers, and it was impossible for them to release any powerful, true meaning attacks or sacred arts. Even if he took out a treasure, he probably wouldn't be able to unleash its full power. After all, he couldn't use his divine power to activate it. Lu Li attacked again. This time, he locked onto another person. Unsurprisingly, that person trembled and screamed in pain. Lu Li also released billions of soul needles at the same time. If he did not stop, the souls of these two people might very well collapse. Kill him. The people from Watercloud Hall roared furiously. Many of them took out their treasures. Although they couldn't unleash their full power in their eyes, this was just a peak third tribulation cultivator. Any random attack from a treasure would be enough to shatter him. Whoosh! A white, sword-shaped piece flew over and smashed at Lu Li's head. Lu Li released heaven armor at once to defend himself. This should be a fragment of a sovereign weapon. It was not particularly powerful. Boom! The white sword-shaped fragment landed on Lu Li's head, but it was like hitting an iron plate. Lu Li only trembled a bit, and the sword-shaped fragment bounced off. This, many people asked in surprise, including those from the Dragon Rebel Abyss and Lu Ling. They were looking at Lu Li in astonishment. Lu Li paid no attention to them, and kept on attacking the warriors of the Hall of Watercloud. Courting death, Shui Yuero was enraged. She looked at the ones under attack. If Lu Li didn't stop, he would have a nervous breakdown sooner or later. A blood-red spear appeared in his hand. The back part of the spear was broken, but the front part was well preserved. It was evident that it had been refined. If one didn't look closely, one wouldn't be able to tell that it was a broken spear. The divine might of this spear was also very terrifying. Even before it was activated, there were already waves of oppressive aura. Under Shui Yuero's casual activation, the blood-colored short spear immediately shone with boundless divine might. An austere aura enveloped the entire place, causing everyone to feel suffocated. "Look out!" Lu Ling couldn't help but shout. She didn't know Lu Li's specific identity, but she was naturally close to him. She always felt he was her family. Lu Li was standing up for her. How could she not be worried? Lu Li had just attacked one of them when he looked at the short spear. He was shocked by what he saw. Clearly, the spear was a fragment of a holy weapon and a well-preserved one at that. Lu Li estimated that the spear could unleash 10% of the holy weapon's power if he used all his strength. Whoosh! The blood-red spear was coming. This time, Lu Li didn't fight back. The interspatial ring on his hand glowed as an ancient painting of mountains and rivers appeared in front of him. He didn't consume the painting, but that didn't stop him from using it. Once, the painting had fended off Dan Jiodang's attack. Whoosh! The blood-red spear flew over and pierced into the landscape painting. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the spear. Dragon and Ai Yun and Lu Ling's hearts were in their throats. What? How is that possible? What happened next shocked everyone. That short spear pierced through the ancient landscape painting. It didn't go through the painting. Rather, it went in and disappeared into the painting. No! Shui Yuero's expressions were terrible. He suddenly realized that he had lost his spiritual connection with the spear. In other words, he could no longer control the spear. The spear didn't belong to him. It was given to him by his grandpa, a patriarch of the Hall of Watercloud. The spear was not an average fragment of a holy weapon. It was a piece of treasure that had been refined by many warriors of the Hall of Watercloud for many years. The spear was not weaker than a sovereign weapon. Now, he had lost his spiritual connection with the spear. In other words, the spear was taken away by Lu Li. Whoosh! On the other side, a peachwood sword flew over as well. Lu Li moved the painting to the left, and the peachwood sword stabbed into the painting as well. Then, the sword pierced through and vanished into thin air. Even though the wind was howling and those warriors were still screaming miserably, many people felt it was a moment of silence. They forgot about the situation around them. All they could think about was the strange painting of mountains and rivers that Lu Li had given them. Some of the warriors of the Hall of Watercloud were about to release their treasures, but they didn't dare to do so. Some had already released their treasures. They flew back at once. Everyone looked at Lu Li as if he was a freak. Lu Li had taken away a treasure that was barely comparable to a sovereign weapon. What kind of amazing skill was this? If Lu Li could take away sovereign weapons and holy weapons, then what was the point of fighting? Treasure. Dragon Rebel Pool. Lin Fengyun and the others stared at Lu Li's painting of mountains and rivers. The passion in their eyes could melt icebergs. Lu Li's treasure was powerful. With it, he could defeat tens of thousands of warriors. Nobody could imagine that a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation, a puny one to them, could have such a treasure. Or maybe Luli was not at the peak of the third tribulation, but a warrior hiding his realm? That being said, Luli was young, younger than many warriors. Do you want to continue? Luli put away the painting. He glanced over to the warriors of the Hall of Watercloud and shouted, "If you have other means, use them. If you have other powerful treasures, use them. If you don't, then I will continue. This time, I will not only tear off your mouths, but also your souls." Chapter 25:15. Every time Luli made a move, someone would be hit. Even though their soul was not crushed right away, they were still under attack. The first one to be hit had already lost the whites of his eyes. His veins were popping out, and he was twitching. Anyone could tell that he was in serious trouble. 11. Luli had attacked for dozens of times, and 11 had been hit. Only 7 from the Hall of Watercloud were unharmed. Either the 7 had powerful enchanted souls to protect their souls, or they were too far away for Luli to target and attack. The faces of Shui Yuro and the others were filled with shock and anger, but they couldn't move their bodies. They had a feeling of helplessness. They were not good at soul attacks. None of them dared to touch the treasures. They could only watch their brothers and sisters suffer and eventually die. "We cannot go on like this." Shui Yuro took a deep breath and shouted, "This friend, can we have a talk? You have killed them. From now on, you will be the sworn enemy of the Hall of Watercloud. Our master is outside. You must think about what to do when you get out. I don't think there is any deep hatred between us. Why can't we talk about it openly?" Shui Yuro's blood-red spear was taken away by Luli, which was a great blow to Shui Yuro. He didn't even know how to explain to his grandpa when he got out. That being said, he had to calm down and talk to Luli in a nice tone. Otherwise, the 11 would all die. By then, even if they could get out, the rest of them would not be able to do anything unless they were killed by the Dragon Rebel race. Even if there was a holy weapon, what could they rely on to fight for it? They could only watch the other 3 forces fight for it. It would be pointless for them to come here. "Talk." Luli put on a mocking smile and replied, "How do you think we should talk? Or, what do you want to buy their lives with?" "I'm not buying their lives." Shui Yuro was so angry that he almost cursed out loud. So what he said before was just bullsh asterisk T? Taking another breath, Shui Yuro asked, "My friend, there is no hatred between us, is there? You are not from the Dragon Rebel race. You don't have to stand up for them." "I'm not standing up for them, but for her." Lu Li's domineering and murderous words came out. He looked at Lu Ling and said, "Anyone that dares to insult her will be my sworn enemy. Killing you will be a light punishment." Many people turned their attention to Lu Ling. She was the woman who had fought against the Hall of Watercloud in a fit of rage because of him. Now, someone was standing up for Lu Ling and trying to kill everyone from the Hall of Watercloud. Lu Ling had never appeared in public before. Not many people knew about her. They only knew that she had a distinguished identity and that she had been staying with the Dragon Rebel team. Lu Ling's face was covered so that her face could not be seen clearly. That being said, her figure and temperament were top-notch, which attracted many people's attention. After this, the other 3 forces would try their best to find out more about Lu Ling. Right at that moment, the first young master of the Watercloud Hall to be attacked by Lu Li suddenly let out a miserable cry. Then he trembled and stopped moving. The aura on his body gradually disappeared, and he soon became a corpse. "Chung Xian!" Shui Yuro cried out in pain. He was in a panic. The death of the first meant that the others would die as well. If he didn't do something now, then the 11 would all become dead bodies, spinning around with him. Phew, Shui Yuro exhaled and tried to make himself look as gentle as possible. Looking at Luli, he said, "My friend, tell me what you want. What can I do for you to let them go?" "Let me think." Luli pretended to be in deep thoughts, which made Shui Yuro and the others nervous. How long was he going to think? The others couldn't hold on any longer. Another miserable cry came. Another person died, a young lady. Her soul should be weaker. Even though she was attacked later, she died first. Shui Yuero was losing his mind. The one who died was his cousin. He glared at Lu Li and said, "Whatever you want, at least stop attacking first. If more people die, this will not end." "What do you mean by not end?" Lu Li said with a light smile. "What do you plan to do? Do you want to kill me? Come and fight me. If you can kill me, I will admit that you are something." "Don't go too far," Shui Yuero yelled in rage. "Are you going to stay in there for the rest of your life? When you get out, the Hall of Water Cloud will hunt you down. There will be no place for you to hide in the third heaven." "Do you think I am scared?" Lu Li sneered and then said, "As a matter of fact, when I attacked the Water Cloud Hall, I already had a blood feud with you, right? You young masters are so proud and arrogant that you will try your best to kill me. If so, I might as well kill some of you. In this way, when I die, I can make some profit, right?" Shui Yuero's heart was weighed down. It seemed that Lu Li had no intention of letting them go. He must have been flirting with Shui Yuero when he said he would think about it. Shui Yuero's eyes grew colder as he shouted, "Lu Li, right? Are you sure you want to do this?" "Ha, ha, ha." Lu Li laughed out loud in a domineering manner. He waved the soft sword in his hand and attacked at several people nearby. Those people could not stand it any longer. Under Lu Li's powerful attacks, they could not stand it any longer. After some shrill cries, they died tragically on the spot. Shui Yuero and the others said nothing more. It would be pointless to say anything more. Apart from asking for humiliation, there was nothing else they could do. They could only watch helplessly as people died one by one. They watched as their friends and clansmen died. Their hearts were filled with anger and killing intent, but there was nothing they could do. After the time for one incense stick to burn, all 11 were dead. Their bodies were spinning around nearby. Shui Yuero and the others closed their eyes, afraid to look at the scene around them. Every time they looked, they would see corpses. Those people were still alive a moment ago, and they were their brothers and sisters. They were still laughing and playing with them. Now, they could only become corpses floating in midair. Phew, phew, Shui Yuero took a deep breath. He told himself to calm down, or else he would lose his mind. He had to find a way to get out of the tornado and then grind Lu Li's bones into ashes. "Lu Li," Shui Yuero screamed with his eyes closed. "You will pay for what you have done today. I, Shui Yuero, swear that if I can't tear you into pieces, I am not a human being." Ha ha ha. Chapter 25:16. What Lu Li said was the truth. Those young masters were proud and arrogant. They all thought they were better than others and would not tolerate any provocation. If Lu Li were a young master from the 27 forces, they might be able to put up with it. However, Lu Li was at the peak of the third tribulation and had no background. To them, he was a puny insect. This puny insect provoked them and attacked them. They were in so much pain that they wished they were dead. To them, this was a great humiliation. How could they accept it? They would not let Lu Li off the hook when they were free or when they got out. The energy they could use was horrifying. By making enemies with those young masters, Lu Li was practically making enemies with the Hall of Water Cloud. If so, what should Lu Li worry about? Lu Li had always been like this. Now that he had offended them, he would offend them as much as he could. If he didn't kill them, the Hall of Water Cloud would kill him. If he killed them, the Hall of Water Cloud would still kill him. What was the difference? After the 11 died, Lu Li closed his eyes to cultivate, paying no attention to the others. Nobody could move now, so it was pointless to waste time talking. If the 4 forces solved the tornado first, then he would not survive. He could only hope that Blood Fairy could solve the tornado first. Lu Ling gazed into Lu Li's eyes as if she was trying to memorize his face. But she dared not to look at him for too long. She was afraid that this person would come to her mind again and she would pass out from the pain. It was quiet. Nobody said anything. The only sound was the howling of the wind. Lin family, Fan family, and the Dragon Rebel Valley looked at the 11 dead bodies floating in midair near them. Their expressions were complicated. Everyone here had blood on their hands. They were no strangers to corpses, and they were never afraid of them. That being said, there were bodies floating around them in miserable and horrible states. Inevitably, they did not feel good about it. The tornado whooshed on. After waiting for 2 hours, they all closed their eyes to cultivate or to sense the surroundings, trying to find a way to solve the tornado. Of course, many people did not feel comfortable looking at the corpses, so they decided to cultivate. This world was very misty. The faint yellow glow above their heads dyed the entire world with a layer of faint yellow radiance, making it look even more strange and mysterious. The speed of the tornado was very fast. In every breath of time, it could travel thousands of miles. The tornado came and went. No one knew where it was going, and no one knew when it would stop. Perhaps it would never stop. Soon, several days had passed. There was no news of Blood Fairy. Luli was not in a hurry. He cultivated leisurely. At the same time, he was thinking of ways to make his soul attack more powerful. Currently, his soul attack should be able to affect a large portion of Fifth Tribulation experts. If he didn't have a high-level demon soul, he probably wouldn't even be able to withstand the Fifth Tribulation late stage. If he had the protection of a 7th or 8th stage demon soul, then his soul attack wouldn't be enough. 7th or 8th rank enchanted souls were high-level enchanted souls. But all the young masters and young ladies of the 27 forces should have one. The enchanted soul in Lu Ling's soul should be of the 8th rank. It was given to Lu Ling by the Dragon Rebel race. Lu Ling's status in the Dragon Rebel race must be high. Is my sister a descendant of the Dragon Rebel race? Luli remembered that Lu Ling had been with the Dragon Rebel race. He had his doubts. The Dragon Rebel race had a high status, and their abilities were horrifying, second only to the Emperor. One of them could defeat several quasi-emperors. Even in the third heaven, they were the most powerful warriors. If Lu Ling really was a descendant of the Dragon Rebel race, then it would be understandable why Patriarch Yu and Patriarch Shan of the Dragon Rebel race lied and didn't want Lu Ling to see Lu Ling. The difference in status was huge. One was a phoenix in the sky, and the other was a chicken on the ground. The chicken was trying to become a phoenix, but a chicken was a chicken. That could not be changed. What was more, the Dragon Rebel race could not marry outsiders. Patriarch Yu and Patriarch Shan must be worried that Lu Ling and Lu Li would get together. For one thing, it would be against the rules. For another, the Dragon Rebel race would be displeased. Lu Li was troubled. He wondered if he should leave with Lu Ling. Lu Ling was living a good life. She had top-level resources at the Dragon Rebel race. Lu Li could tell that she had reached the Fifth Tribulation. Also, she was a member of the Dragon Rebel race. After the Dragon Rebel Blood Seal was awakened, her abilities were impressive. What was more, Lu Ling was only a few years older than him. She was very young. With the full support of the Dragon Rebel race, it was not impossible for her to reach the Lord Realm in the future. Once she reached that level, she would be a powerful warrior at the third heaven. If he took Lu Ling away and found a way to unlock her memory, her state of mind would be affected, which would affect her cultivation. Also, there would be nothing for her to go back to the second heaven with him. Compared to the third heaven, there were so few resources. There was something else. If he really took Lu Ling away, the Dragon Rebel race would be enraged. By then, they could send a random lord to the lower universe, and the second heaven would be bathed in blood. What should he do then? For a moment, Lu Li was troubled. He didn't know what to do. He decided not to think too much. Even if he could solve the tornado, could he really take Lu Ling away? Would he be able to find an exit if he took her away? It should be known that the 4 major powers had sent 20 powerhouses this time, including even Lord-rank powerhouses. Time zipped by. Soon, 10 days had passed. Blood Fairy hadn't even sent a message, but something strange had happened today. Someone's shout attracted everyone's attention. A warrior of the Dragon Rebel race shouted, "Look, what is that?" Lu Li opened his eyes and took a look. He was shocked both physically and mentally. His eyes were filled with astonishment. In front of him was a huge abyss. The bottom of the abyss was giving out colorful light, as if a treasure chest had been opened. But that was not the point. Above the abyss, there were many huge coffins floating up and down. They would fly down and then fly up again, one after another. The abyss was long, with no end in sight. Above the abyss were coffins, all floating up and down. illuminated by the colorful light. It was a strange and terrifying scene. Those coffins were identical to the ones outside. The only difference was that these coffins were larger, times larger than the previous ones. There were also yellow hairs on the edges of the coffins. But that was not the point. The point was that the tornado was moving toward the abyss. Soon, it would arrive above the abyss. Many people's faces revealed a horrified expression. If dozens of giant coffins were brought in and those yellow hairs were shot out, everyone would probably have to bear the consequences. Think of something. Think of a way to change the direction of the tornado, or else we will be in big trouble. How? Divine energy is messed up. How about we attack the coffins? Forget it. Do whatever you want. Let's see if we can change the direction of the tornado. They were making a lot of noise and began to attack. Weak as the attacks were, they tried their best to release some long-range attacks, trying to change the direction of the tornado. However, Chapter 25:17. It was a colorful abyss with many coffins floating up and down. The edges of the coffins were covered with yellow hair. It was such a strange scene. If they had not seen it with their own eyes, Lin Fengyun and the others would not have believed it if they were told. It was happening right in front of their eyes. They were being carried by a tornado toward the coffins. The coffins might be sucked in. Everyone was frightened, including Lu Li. They had to face what they had to face. As the tornado swept over, the more than a dozen coffins were sucked in. They were dancing and spinning with the others. When the coffin neared the people, the divine runes on the coffin lit up. Following that, a sky full of yellow hair flew out, shooting at the cultivators in all directions. Everyone was under attack, without exception. They reacted at once. They either used defensive skills or took out treasures. Bang, 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 bang. Lu Li used the heaven armor skill. The yellow hair pierced into his body like needles, making a muffled sound. It was painful, but not enough to hurt him. After a while, Lu Li stopped worrying and focused on Lu Ling. He was afraid that something might happen to her. He took a glance and was immediately relieved. Lu Ling took out a small purple incense burner. The incense burner emitted purple flames and quickly spun around her. Any Goldie that came close was burnt by the incense burner. Lin Fengyun and the others had treasures as well. The others were in a worse state. But the Dragon Rebel race was better off. They had all awakened the Dragon Rebel blood seal. Their defensive abilities were enhanced. They could stand the yellow hair. Some of the other families had their bodies pierced by the yellow hair. The yellow hair could suck blood. Many people cried out in pain. Their skin and flesh were sinking in. Lin Fengyun and the others used their treasures to help those nearby. Still, many people were suffering. In a time for merely a dozen breaths, 7 or 8 people had been sucked dry and died on the spot. The yellow hair seemed to be growing. Even though many of them were destroyed, more were coming out from the coffins. The Dragon Rebel race had it easier. The Hall of Watercloud could stop the yellow hair as well. After all, the Hall of Watercloud only had a few powerful warriors left, and everyone had treasures. The people from the Lin and Fan families were in a more miserable situation. More and more people were falling for it. The experts from the Lin and Fan families could only watch helplessly. They couldn't help much. One by one, they died. The experts of the Lin family and the Fan family were in great pain. The feeling of watching their brothers and sisters die before their eyes was like suffering in hell. The Dragon and I Pool and the others could actually help, but no one did, because the Fan family and the Lin family were their potential enemies. Helping the enemy was the same as harming oneself. If the Fan and Lin families were weakened, then their chances of survival would be greater. Bang, bang, bang. Lin Fengyun controlled a huge magic seal and smashed it toward the coffin. The coffin was smashed away for some distance, but it was quickly pulled back by the suction force of the tornado. Everyone, use your treasures to attack the coffin and smash it out. Lin Fengyun's spirit was lifted as he roared. He controlled the huge seal to continuously smash a coffin, and actually managed to smash a coffin away. The tornado whooshed over the abyss and did not stop there. It flew to the distance. The coffin that Lin Fengyun smashed away fell to the ground, and then flew up on its own toward the abyss. Boom, boom, boom. All the powerful warriors with treasures took actions. Many did not even have the mind to protect themselves. They were still attacking the coffins despite the attacks from the yellow hairs. Only by smashing all the coffins away could they be safe once and for all. At that moment, the Dragon and I Pool and Lu Ling took actions as well. They didn't want the Dragon and I clan to be hurt either. Even Dragon and I Yin could not stand it any longer. As long as the yellow hairs pierced into a person's body, they would suck away the person's essence and blood. Gradually, the person's defense would weaken. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, all the coffins were smashed away. Everyone was relieved. Lin family and the Fan family, on the other hand, felt like weeping but had no tears. Both families lost more than 10 people. The Lin family lost 15 people, and the Fan family lost 12. Many others were wounded. Many were emaciated. Much of their essence, chi, and spirit had been sucked away. Their vitality was damaged. It would take several months for them to recover. The Dragon and I clan was cheered up. Only a few were wounded. The Dragon and I clan had the upper hand now, unless the other three forces joined hands. But the Fan family and the Lin family were mortal enemies. They wouldn't work together so easily. Of course, this was based on the premise that everyone was free. If they were trapped in the tornado, then it would be pointless to say anything. What is in the abyss? This question came to Lu Li's mind as well as many others. There was a 7-colored glow in the abyss. The coffins flew back and floated up and down in the abyss. There must be something in the abyss, something big. There might be treasures. Maybe the coffins were there to guard the treasures. Anyone who wanted to go into the abyss would be attacked by the yellow hairs in the coffins. What kind of demons and monsters are in the coffins? There was another question worth pondering. Some of the yellow hairs were already so horrifying. If the demons and monsters in the coffins were to come out, then no one would survive. Who was suppressing those demons and monsters? Was this really a land of treasures refined by Saint Emperor? Luli could not figure it out. He did not want to think about it. He closed his eyes and continued to cultivate, waiting for Blood Fairy's message. He had an inexplicable confidence that Blood Fairy would be able to break the tornado. The tornado moved forward into the unknown distance. It was hazy all around. It was as if the tornado was going to take them to the end of the world. Look at the sky to the north. What is that? 5 days later, another shout woke Luli up. He raised his head and squinted. Once again, he saw a shocking scene. In the northern sky, a golden chain suddenly appeared. That chain was like a divine chain of heaven and earth as it traversed the northern sky. An inexplicable divine might emanated from the chain. Under this chain, everyone felt very small. It was as if the mortals had seen a bolt of lightning and could not resist the might of heaven and earth. Someone shouted again. Lu Li's pupils contracted. He could see a small black dot flying toward the chain. That person's long hair and robe were fluttering in the wind. He was graceful, as if an immortal had descended. Buzzing, but soon the scene in the northern sky gradually faded. The giant chain and the figure slowly turned into nothingness, disappearing without a trace, as if they had never been there in the first place. A huge chain and a person. This scene caused everyone's hearts to palpitate, and they were extremely surprised and bewildered. Was that an illusion, or did it really exist? Who was that person? Why was there a chain in the sky? Nobody could understand, but they all felt the world was becoming more and more mysterious and unpredictable. P.S. Today is the meeting. For chapters tomorrow. Also, there was an activity on the QQ Reading app called Summer Holiday Support Season. Click on the Discover, Receive Benefits section and find this activity to support the Old Freak. The activity would end on July 15th. If the Old Freak could win the overall ranking, he would receive 10 chapters on July 16th, 8 chapters for the top 3, and 5 chapters for the top 10. For more details, you could click on the book review section. The Old Freak had posted a comment with a detailed introduction. Chapter 25:18. The chain did not seem to be some kind of artifact. That was the first impression people had. Instead, it was more like some kind of natural law, like a strange scene in heaven and earth like a rainbow. If that was not an artifact, then why would there be a chain in the sky? Was that person real? If it was a real person, then what level of strength would that person have reached? Just now, everyone took a few looks at the chain. They all felt suffocated. If they were allowed to get closer, they would all be immobilized. Is it that nameless demon emperor? Luli thought. If the sky-reaching chains were real, then the only one that could get close to the sky-reaching chains was that nameless demon emperor. Luli didn't think even a quasi-emperor could get close. The nameless demon emperor is on this level? Are the old fellows from the four great powers also on this floor? This was what worried Luli the most. If all the senior warriors of the four forces were on this level, then once he ran into them, there was no way he could survive. Nobody could save him, not even Lu Ling. The powerful warriors of the Hall of Watercloud would tear him into pieces. Luli could not pin all his hopes on Blood Fairy. He closed his eyes and began to study the tornado, trying to see if he could find a way or provide Blood Fairy with some ideas to solve the problem as soon as possible. Luli ignored everything else and began to study. The others communicated with each other for a while. Then, they all quieted down and began to figure out a way to solve the tornado. As a matter of fact, Lin Fengyun, Shui Yuero, and the others had sent out distress signals to inform their seniors in this blessed land. However, it had been a long time since those seniors showed up. Maybe they were not on this level, or maybe they were busy with other things. Either way, they could not count on them for the time being. The tornado continued to howl, and 3 days later, it encountered another tornado. Finally, the two tornadoes merged into one again, becoming an even larger tornado that continued to move quickly into the distance. Time zipped by. Soon, 6 days had passed. Today, another scene appeared in the sky, which shocked everyone. The scene seemed to be very far away, and they could not see it very clearly. They could see a golden chain dancing in the air, followed by a figure who seemed to be chasing the golden chain. Then, they saw another group of people following behind them. They seemed to be chasing after the giant golden chain as well. It was above the void, and there were many giant rocks flying in the air. The giant chain would occasionally drill into the giant rocks in the air and fly out again from time to time. Isn't that third granduncle? That's my grandfather. My elders seem to be here as well. The people inside the tornado were in an uproar. They couldn't see anything from the first figure, but although the figures behind were blurry, many people could still recognize them. In particular, there were a few whose appearances were rather special, and they were immediately recognized. They were the experts from the four great powers that had entered. Unfortunately, after the figures flashed, they gradually became blurry and disappeared in midair like a mirage. Everyone also sensed that the images were not nearby, and they did not know why they had appeared in midair. What's that giant chain? Previously, everyone thought that it might be an illusion. Now that the seniors of their powers had appeared, it was definitely not an illusion. The person at the front was likely to be the nameless demon Narch, which meant that the nameless demon Narch and the experts from the various powers were chasing after the giant chain. It was definitely a supreme treasure that even Emperor-class experts were chasing after. Therefore, everyone was very curious about it. Previously, everyone suspected that it was a kind of natural wonder, but now they didn't think so. The giant chain was flying away, and the nameless demon Narch and a group of people were chasing after it. This meant that it was a treasure with a very spiritual nature. Holy weapon. This was the speculation of many people. Only a super strong holy weapon could attract Emperor-class experts to chase after it. This place was suspected to be a supreme treasure ground refined by a Saint Emperor. It was understandable that there was a holy weapon inside. Many treasures had a spiritual nature, and holy weapons were even more so. Perhaps this holy weapon was unwilling to be taken by the nameless demon Narch and a group of people, which was why it was flying away. Holy weapon. Many people couldn't help but sigh. Whoever could subdue a holy weapon and make it their own, their combat strength would soar immediately. For example, if the Dragon Rebel Abyss could get a powerful holy weapon, they could easily suppress ordinary lords. This was the power of a holy weapon. The Dragon Rebel Valley and the Watercloud Hall didn't have any Emperor-class experts, including the Hua clan, where Tian Yazi was from. However, the three powers all had a super strong holy weapon. With the help of the holy weapon, the supreme experts of the clans could easily contend with ordinary great emperors and even suppress them. This was the power of a holy weapon. A holy weapon was a weapon used by a saint emperor and refined by a saint emperor. It contained the supreme power and laws of a saint emperor. There weren't many complete holy weapons in the entire level 3 heaven. Even some emperor-class experts didn't have a holy weapon. There hadn't been a saint emperor for so many years. Many of the holy weapons from the ancient times had been broken. There were only so many holy weapons left, and all of them were occupied by the major powers and powerful great emperors. A holy weapon was the ultimate dream for all martial artists. Of course, it was just a dream. Even if they could get a holy weapon, they wouldn't be able to control it. They would have to hand it over to their families for the most powerful warriors to use. They wouldn't be able to exert the full power of a holy weapon. It was even a problem if they could use it at full power. The scene in the distance had disappeared. Everyone, including Lu Li, was still excited at their realm and abilities. Who wouldn't want to further improve their abilities? That huge chain is not a holy weapon. Lu Li thought about it for a while. He had a strange feeling. He had never seen a holy weapon, and he didn't feel the power of that huge chain. However, he had a feeling that the giant chain was an extremely strange existence, but it was not a saint weapon. Never mind. Even if it is the most powerful treasure in the world, it is not mine. After a moment, Lu Li shook his head. Such a treasure was not something he could covet. Even if he did get it, it wouldn't be a good thing. Instead, it would cause a disaster. All the powerful warriors in the level 3 heaven would come after him. By then, he would be hated by everyone. Even if he could hide in the heaven reverse universe, he would still be found and killed. An innocent man would get into trouble because of his wealth. Soon, Lu Li put this matter aside. He continued to cultivate while studying the formation patterns in the tornado, trying to find a way to crack it. Time continued to pass, and in the blink of an eye, another half a month had passed. During this period of time, everyone was trying to think of a way to solve this problem, but in the end, no one was able to solve it. The strange scene in the sky appeared once again. The giant chain was still flying in the sky, and a group of people were chasing it. The group of people didn't give up. They hadn't been able to take down the giant chain after half a month. They didn't know what was so special about the giant chain that even an emperor-level expert couldn't take it down. Chapter 25:19. Blood Fairy was becoming more and more accomplished in the study of divine glyphs. There were indeed divine glyphs in the tornado. It was because of these divine glyphs that the tornado could contain such strong and mysterious energy. Since there were divine glyphs, the rest would be easy. Blood Fairy had studied for a long time and had found a precise way to crack the divine glyphs. As long as they followed Blood Fairy's method, it would be easy to crack the tornado. But there was a problem. Once they followed Blood Fairy's method, the entire tornado might collapse. In other words, everyone could escape. By then, it would not be good news for Lu Li, but a nightmare. At the very least, a few people from the Watercloud Palace would immediately make a move. As for whether the Lin family and the Fan family would make a move against him, that was uncertain. That being said, Lu Li was an outsider. This land belonged to the Four Forces. Maybe Lin family and Fan family would not allow Lu Li to touch it. The Dragon Rebel race was the most powerful one. None of them had died. The other 3 forces might work together to deal with Lu Li. That would be an opportunity. Lu Li was afraid to take the risk. After some thoughts, he asked, "Is there a way for me to get out alone and the rest of you can stay in the tornado? Once the formation patterns in the tornado are destroyed, I may be killed by the others." Well, Blood Fairy pondered for a moment, then said, "That will be difficult, but I can think of a way. If I have enough time, I believe I will have no problem comprehending this heaven and earth formation. When I do, I might be able to create a tornado like this." Really? Lu Li was surprised. This tornado was strong. Lin Fengyun and Shui Yuero were at the peak of the fifth tribulation. This tornado could even trap warriors at the peak of the fifth tribulation. This was a powerful skill. If Blood Fairy could build a tornado like this, then Lu Li's abilities would be greatly enhanced. I will study it later. First, I need to figure out a way to get out. Lu Li calmed himself down. He could not learn the heaven and earth formation anytime soon. It was pointless to think about something so far in the future. He had to get out first. Blood Fairy continued to study while Lu Li continued to cultivate. The tornado was still floating. The world was still a blur. There was nothing special. Apart from the wilderness, there was more wilderness. The Dragon Rebel Pool, Lin Fengyun, Shui Yuero, and the others had almost given up. They didn't have a good understanding of divine inscriptions, and they had no way of deciphering such divine inscriptions. Their own divine powers were messed up, and their treasures were useless against the tornado. Their other divine powers couldn't affect the tornado either, so they couldn't do anything. Right now, their only hope was to wait for their seniors to come and rescue them. However, they were safe inside the tornado. Moreover, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was also very rich. So, it would not be a problem for them to cultivate here for a few years. There's a sea in front of us. After another 7 or 8 days, everyone found that the scenery in front of them had changed. A blue sea appeared in the distance, which made everyone excited. If the tornado went into the sea, it would definitely attract seawater, right? Would it cause any changes in the tornado? Did they have a chance to escape? Soon, the tornado reached the sea, stirring up the seawater. There was a huge whirlpool in the sea. The seawater was spinning in the tornado. Everyone was soaked. What? Lin Fengyun yelled, "The force is weakening. Everyone check. The force that is restraining us is weakening." Yes, it is weakening. A powerful warrior of the Hall of Watercloud sensed it and was overjoyed. Then, he turned to Lu Li like a viper. Shui Yuero and the others looked at Lu Li almost at the same time. They could not hide the murderous intent in their eyes. The dagger was revealed. Since they were about to get out, there was nothing to say. There was no need to hide anything. Someone from the Hall of Watercloud even murmured, "Lu Li, right? Later, we will let you have a good time. We will let you have a taste of the 18 tortures of the Hall of Watercloud. This time, you will beg for death." "Is that so?" Lu Li replied with a grin. "Then I will wait and see." With that said, Lu Li paid no more attention to the warriors from the Hall of Watercloud. He said to Lu Ling, "I have to go now. Do you want to come with me?" Yes, Blood Fairy had found a way to help Lu Li get out easily. Actually, Lu Li was hesitant to ask Lu Ling because he was not sure what taking her with him would bring her. Lu Ling was living a good life. She would be hunted if she went with him, and he did not have many resources. In other words, he could not even feed himself. Was it really good for Lu Li to ask Tian Yazi to help him crack the memory seal? Once Lu Ling's mind was broken, would she be able to cultivate at this speed? Would it affect her future development? Also, if he took Lu Ling away, would it be a devastating blow to the second heaven? What if the dragon rebel race went to the second heaven in a fit of rage? By then, Lu Li would be a sinner of the second heaven. But in the end, he chose to ask. He wanted to hear Lu Ling's opinion. Lu Li had not talked to Lu Ling recently. She was surprised that he suddenly did. After a moment of surprise, she replied, "You want to go now? Can you leave now? Go with you? Where to?" "Yes." Lu Li replied with certainty. "I have cracked the tornado. I can leave at any time. As for where to go with me, it is hard to tell. Let's find an exit and leave this blessed land first. Maybe I can find someone to crack the memory seal in your soul. Do you want to do that?" Lu Ling was hesitating. She was looking forward to it and a little bit scared at the same time. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, she said, "Even though I have a strange sense of kinship with you, I still don't want to go with you. I don't want to crack the memory seal. I am living a good life." Okay. Lu Li took a deep breath. Since Lu Ling believed that she was living a good life, then nothing else mattered. She was a member of the Dragon Rebel race. She should go back to the Dragon Rebel race. She could have a better future there. Lu Li would not force her to leave. Maybe when Lu Ling reached the level of a lord, the memory seal would be broken. She would come back when she had nothing to do. By then, they could reunite. Never mind, never mind. Lu Li gazed into Lu Ling's eyes and smiled with satisfaction. He had gone through a lot of hardships and narrowly escaped death. But it was all worth it to be able to see her and know that she was living a good life. As long as you are well, everything is fine, Lu Li said. Then divine energy surged in his body. Though it was messed up, he could still mobilize a small amount of divine energy. He moved the divine energy to his hands and feet and shook his hands and legs according to a certain pattern. Lu Li's strange behavior caught many people's attention, especially those from the Hall of Watercloud. Some even sneered, wondering if Lu Li was having a seizure. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, something shocking happened. After a while, Lu Li's chi and energy surged. Then, he dashed out like an arrow and left the tornado. Lu Li stood in the void, neither happy nor sad. He didn't try to attack the warriors from the Hall of Watercloud. He just gazed into Lu Ling's eyes, as if he was trying to engrave her in the depth of his heart. Whoosh! Chapter 25:20. Lu Li's instinct told him that the entrance to the next level was above the sea. The tornado was blowing toward them. Now that they were above the sea, the tornado seemed to be weakening. The exit might be above the sea. Lu Li was afraid that someone would come after him. Therefore, he flew close to the surface of the sea. At the same time, he used the trace of Tao to sense the surroundings, fearing that some powerful body or monster might pop up from the sea. Monsters could come out at any time. After flying for 6 hours, Lu Li arrived at a small island and found the entrance to the next level. He built some runes and asked Blood Fairy to check. Then, he dashed into a deep cave. After a flash of white light, Lu Li found himself in midair. There were many small stones floating in the air, and they were flying and moving slowly. Ow! Lu Li was taken aback. He was in midair? There were stones flying in the air? How similar was this to the scene when the nameless demon emperor chased after the huge chain with a group of warriors? Was the nameless demon emperor and the powerful warriors of the four forces here? Lu Li took a closer look. His mind was weighed down. The scene here was so similar to what he had seen before. The nameless demon emperor and powerful warriors of the four forces were probably on this floor. It did not matter where the nameless demon emperor was. It did not matter if the huge chain was taken by the nameless demon emperor or by the powerful warriors of the four forces. What mattered was that if the powerful warriors of the four forces were here, Lu Li would be in grave danger. Even if he ran into the powerful warriors of the Dragon Rebel race, they wouldn't care about right or wrong. They would take him down and interrogate him first, or search his soul and then kill him. Therefore, Lu Li was in a precarious situation. He might run into powerful warriors in front of him and pursuers behind him. He was in a dilemma. Move. No matter how difficult it was, he had to go. Lu Li flew downward. It would be easier for him to find a place to hide. However, after flying for several miles, he stopped because there were runes down there. He did not know what kind of runes they were. But since there were runes down there, they must be useful, not just for decoration. In other words, one could only fly in midair on this floor. They couldn't go down or fly upwards. Apart from some floating rocks, there was nothing else in the air. There was nowhere to hide in this kind of place. Although the light in the sky was not very bright, it was still easy to see the scene tens of thousands of miles away. Within a radius of tens of thousands of kilometers, if anyone was nearby, they would be able to locate him easily. This is the sky? Suddenly, an idea popped into Lu Li's mind. Was this level above the one he had just been on? It was separated by the divine runes. Otherwise, how could they see a group of people chasing after the sky-spanning giant chain? Very likely. Lu Li nodded slightly. Perhaps under certain circumstances, the scene above could be refracted and seen by the people below. This possibility was very high. Otherwise, there was no way to explain the scenes they saw. Go! Lu Li flew carefully and kept an eye on the surroundings. If there was any sign of trouble, he would have to take out the god boat and flee. However, the Godspeed boat speed was about the same as a Lord-class monster's. If a Lord-class monster locked onto him, his fate would be bleak. Xiao. From a distance came a huge rock. It was so fast that at first, Luli thought it was an attack from a monster. He thought for a moment. Instead of trying to dodge, he smashed at the rock with his powerful warrior. He wanted to see if there was anything special about the rock here. Boom! With a muffled sound, Luli was knocked away by a strong force. The rock, on the other hand, was not damaged at all. It continued to fly away at a speed comparable to a warrior of the fifth tribulation. Ow! Luli was shocked. Was this a rock or a relic weapon? It was so strong. His punch could even hurt a warrior of the fifth tribulation. How come the rock was not damaged at all? No, there are divine runes. Luli suddenly realized something. When he attacked, the rock glowed. There must be powerful divine runes inside the rock. Whoosh! Soon, another rock the size of a head flew over. Luli smashed at it again. This time, the rock moved a bit, but it was not damaged. There are divine runes. This time, Luli used the trace of Tao to check carefully. There were indeed divine runes on the rock. Just now, the divine runes glowed for a moment, but soon went back to normal. Luli had to be very careful to see with his naked eyes. Well, Luli stood where he was, deep in thought. All of a sudden, he had an idea. If this idea could be realized, he might be able to deceive everyone, find the entrance to the next level, and then escape. Well, let's see. After a moment, Luli flew into the distance. He looked around for more rocks. Soon, he noticed one that had a radius of more than 100 feet. It was flying fast, comparable to the middle stage of the fifth tribulation. Whoosh! Luli leaped up and caught up with the boulder. He grabbed the protruding edge of the boulder and said, "Blood Fairy, find a way to crack the runes on the boulder so that I can go inside. But you cannot damage the runes." That was right. Luli's plan was to hide in the rock. If he could crack the divine runes on the rock, he could dig a hole and hide in it. Then, he could set up some divine runes to cover the hole and his energy. He could not use psychic power here. As long as he could hide in the rock, unless he was extremely unlucky, he would not be discovered. He could follow the rock, and when he found the exit, he could make a run for it. Of course. Luli could not use psychic power, and the psychic powers of the Dragon Rebel Abyss and the others were restricted as well. That did not mean that Lords would be restricted as well. On the off chance that Lords could use psychic power to check, and Luli was discovered, he would still die. Luli had nowhere else to go. At the very least, hiding in the rock would be safer. He could only hope that the psychic powers of the Lords were restricted as well. Blood Fairy, hurry up. If your master is discovered, I will be doomed. Luli crawled to the top of the rock. He hid his energy and tried to make himself less obvious. Blood Fairy did not send him a message. Instead, she checked the rock to see if she could crack the divine runes. Admittedly, Luli was lucky. In just over 2 hours, Blood Fairy came back with good news. "Master, there are powerful divine runes in the rock, but I have mastered a core pattern. I could disturb the divine runes for a while, and they will lose their effect. You could dig a hole and hide in it." Okay, Luli was cheered up. He took out a relic weapon. When the rock glowed, Luli waved the relic weapon. Stone chips were flying in the air. A small hole was dug out easily. Luli even made a turn in the hole and dug out a space for him to sit with his legs crossed. However, Blood Fairy sent him a piece of bad news. "Master, you have damaged some of the patterns. I need to fix them. I will need at least half a day. I will help you set up some divine runes to hide your energy. It will be up to your luck whether you are discovered or not." Chapter 25-21. The rock was flying around uncontrollably. Runes were useless for the time being. Luli could only hope that he would not run into anyone during this half a day. Even if he did, he hoped that he would not be discovered. Blood Fairy began to build runes quickly. She was going to build a formation of illusion to cover up the entrance and a field of runes to hide Luli's energy. As long as the entrance could not be found, even if someone were to pass by, it would not be noticed. After all, there were rocks everywhere. The rock flew away quickly. In the time for a few incense sticks to burn, Blood Fairy had built 2 simple runes to cover up the entrance. Then, Blood Fairy began to repair the runes in the stone. If the runes were not repaired, a random attack from someone nearby would shatter the stone, and Luli would be exposed. Luli's luck was not so good. An hour later, he ran into someone. From nearby came a noise. Someone was flying over. Luli did not even dare to use the trace of Tao for fear that the powerful warrior would sense it. Luli restrained his energy and sat in the rock, afraid to move. Whoosh! Maybe the powerful warriors passing by could not use psychic power, or maybe they did not notice the rock. Luli did not expect to see a person hiding in the rock. That person did not mind. He flew past the rock and flew into the distance. Those old bastards are on this level. When that person was gone, Luli wiped the cold sweat off his face. That person's energy was strong. Even though Luli did not check carefully, he could tell that he was a lord. Why was this lord-class expert flying alone? Luli did not get an answer to this question. The rock flew away, and Luli did not dwell on it. 2 hours later, Luli ran into another 2 people. He was lucky. Maybe it was because there were so many rocks here, and they were fast. The stone disappeared in a flash, intersecting with the 2 of them before flying far away. Luli exhaled again. It seemed that even Lord-level warriors could not release divine glyphs here. The runes here were so strong that they could even suppress lords. This must be a land of treasures created by Saint Emperor. Luli nodded slightly. This place could even suppress the divine inscriptions of Lord-level warriors. Other than the fact that this was a supreme treasure ground created by a Saint Emperor, there was no other explanation. For hours later, Blood Fairy said, "It's done, Master. The runes on the stone have been repaired. Later on, I will set up a powerful illusory formation as well as a divine inscriptions dojo to seal your aura. That should be enough, right?" It's about time. Luli nodded slightly. If he was discovered like this, then he could only blame his bad luck. He was slightly relieved. He didn't know if he could get out safely, but at least his safety was guaranteed for the time being. Luli realized that this space was large and there were many stones flying in the air. What surprised him the most was that stones would not collide with each other. Sometimes, when 2 stones were about to collide with each other, the 2 stones would automatically move away. They flew on without encountering anyone else. Blood Fairy spent 6 hours to build a powerful formation of illusion and a divine rune to seal off Luli's energy. From the outside, the stone looked no different from regular stones. Even if someone were nearby, they would not be able to sense Luli's energy. Of course, if the warriors here could use psychic power or had some special skills, they could sense Luli's energy. But that person must be near the stone. The stone was flying all the time. The chances of that happening were slim. Theoretically speaking, as long as Luli's luck was not bad, he should not be discovered. Luli felt bored after such a long time. He simply sat in the stone to cultivate and asked Blood Fairy to help him. Blood Fairy could sense if there were any abnormalities nearby. At the very least, she could sense violent tremors in space or screams. This cultivation lasted for 7 days. Luli felt that time flew by so fast that he didn't even notice it. Today, Blood Fairy sent a message to Luli. She told him that many people were here. Luli used the trace of Tao to sense at once. Indeed, there were many people nearby. He tried to sense and noticed that the energy was still young. It must be Lu Ling, Lin Fengyun, and the others who had entered the dragon opposing Abyss. As something is not right, Luli clearly remembered that the stone was flying to the northwest. Why did it come back? Luli did not sense anything. The stone had been changing directions and had come back without him knowing. Luli was not worried about the young people at all. Those people could not see him. The stone flew past them. A warrior of the Lin family even took out a sword and hacked at the stone. Bang! The stone made a muffled sound. That man was pushed back by the strong counterforce. The stone kept flying away. Luli heard the exclamations of the Lin family and some exclamations of admiration. Luli was relieved that the stone flew away. He did not need to worry about the young people. As long as he did not run into any powerful warriors of the older generation, he should be fine. He continued to stay in the boulder, and Blood Fairy continued to explore. Another 3 or 4 days passed, and Blood Fairy did not sense the existence of any exit or passageway. Luli did not mind that Blood Fairy would not send him a message. He continued to cultivate. He would not mind if he had to stay here for a year or 2. Safety came first. He could not fly to find an exit by himself. That would be no different from suicide. Time zipped by. 9 days later, Blood Fairy said, "Master, there are many people out there. They are quite strong." Luli opened his eyes and carefully used the trace of the Great Path to check. Well, there are people, old warriors, and many of them. Luli sensed and stopped moving. He did not have the courage to go further. He could sense it even without the trace of the Great Path because the powerful warriors nearby were horrifying. More importantly, he sensed the might of a rare artifact. The might was so strong that even Lu Li's soul was trembling. It was like the first time Lu Li touched the holy weapon fragment. Only, it was 100 times stronger. The chain. Lu Li did not have to guess to know that the chain must be nearby. Those powerful warriors were tracking the chain. Maybe that unknown demon emperor was here as well. But Luli did not have the courage to check. How strong could a demon emperor be? He would be noticed as soon as he tried to check. Buzzing, a gentle breeze suddenly blew over Luli, which made him tremble. He was hiding in the stone, and there was a seal at the entrance. Where did the breeze come from? The only explanation was that someone had used psychic power to check him, and he was discovered. Whoosh! The stone flew into the distance. Luli was relieved to find that no one was coming after him. Soon, those warriors flew away, and so did the stone. Luli checked carefully to make sure that no one was coming after him. He wiped the cold sweat off his face. He was not at ease. For now, no one was coming after him. However, he had been discovered. If those who found him were from the 4 forces, it was only a matter of time before he was hunted down. This was a treasured land that belonged to the 4 forces. They would not allow anyone to touch it. Chapter 25-22. Luli spent the rest of the time in fear. He was worried that a powerful warrior of the Lord Realm would catch up with him, smash the rock, and then kill him. What he worried about didn't happen. The next 3 days were peaceful. Maybe it was because the powerful warrior noticed that Luli was chasing after the chain, or maybe the powerful warrior didn't see where Luli was. Either way, if the powerful warrior didn't catch up with Luli in 3 days, then he should be safe for now. Luli didn't cultivate anymore. He had been checking the surroundings carefully. He wanted to find an exit and leave as soon as possible. He was dancing on the tip of a knife. He could die at any moment. It was better to leave as soon as possible. The void here was vast. Maybe the rock was going in circles as well. Luli had been flying for a long time, but he didn't see the edge of the region. It was as if the world was boundless. Another day later, Luli ran into Lu Ling, Lin Fengyun, and the others at the Dragon Rebel Abyss. He was sure that the rock was going in circles. It seemed to be flying in a straight line, but it was just an illusion. The rock had been going in circles, or else it wouldn't have been so easy to run into Lu Ling and the others. The young man didn't mind. Those warriors couldn't see him yet. This group of people was flying at a high speed, keeping a certain distance from each other. The Fan family, the Lin family, and the Water Cloud Palace were closer to each other. It was obvious that the 3 forces were guarding against the Dragon Rebel clan in secret. The rock passed by the 3 teams and flew into the distance. Those warriors didn't pay attention to the rock at all. There were rocks everywhere. The rocks couldn't be broken, and there was nothing special about them. Nobody would pay attention to them. Another 4 days passed. Luli still hadn't found the exit. The exit on this level should be well hidden and hard to find. Otherwise, he would have found it after such a long time. Can it be inside a rock? Luli thought of a possibility. Apart from the void, there were only rocks on this level. If the exit was above the void, then it would be easy to find. If it was not above the void, then it must be inside a rock. Luli began to sense the rocks around him to see if there were any special movements in them. That would be difficult, but if he didn't try, he would never find it. Another 3 days passed by. Luli bumped into those warriors again. Luli could feel the might of the chains from afar and the suffocating energy of those powerful warriors. Luli did not feel the might of the Demon Emperor. Theoretically speaking, the might of a powerful warrior of the great Emperor realm should be horrifying. Luli should be suffocated by the might of an emperor. However, Luli did not feel any trace of the might of an emperor. Could it be that the one chasing after the giant chains isn't the nameless demon arch? Luli was confused, but he did not dare to use the trace of doubt to check. He tried his best to hide his energy and prayed that he would not be noticed. Boom! Suddenly, a huge palm slammed onto the boulder. Although the boulder did not explode, it was pushed back. Even though Luli's palm was protected by the runes on the boulder, the power of the palm still made Luli's blood tumble. His face was full of surprise. Had he been discovered? Did someone want to smash the stone to kill him? He couldn't care so much anymore. He immediately activated the mark of the Great Path to sense the situation around him. Images appeared in his mind. The first thing that came to Luli's mind was a huge golden chain. It was not a real chain, but a shadow. It was more than 1,000 feet long and thicker than Luli's head. It emitted an indescribable pressure that made Luli's soul tremble. Behind the huge golden chain was a handsome man wearing a green robe. This man looked somewhat feminine and had a head of beautiful green hair. He did not have any aura on him, and his figure was elegant as he chased after the huge golden chain. The Nameless Demon Emperor. Luli had heard about this Nameless Demon Emperor. He knew it was him at once. He knew why he did not feel the might of an emperor before. The Nameless Demon Emperor hid his energy. Nobody could tell that he was a powerful warrior of the great Emperor realm without knowing about him. While Luli was trying to sense the Nameless Demon Emperor, the Nameless Demon Emperor suddenly threw him a glance. Luli felt that the Nameless Demon Emperor could see through the runes on the boulder, his body, and his soul. Luli trembled. The Nameless Demon Emperor's eyes were horrifying. It was as if he could see through all of Luli's secrets. But the Nameless Demon Emperor only threw a glance at Luli and then looked away as if Luli was just an ant, not worthy of his attention. There were dozens of warriors behind the Nameless Demon Emperor, including quite a number of lords. But nobody paid attention to Luli. Everyone was focused on the golden chain, not the boulder. Who did it? Luli could not figure it out. Was it the Nameless Demon Emperor? However, the Nameless Demon, the Arch, possessed incredible combat strength. If he was the one who attacked, the stone would have already exploded, right? The others did not pay attention to the boulder. Could it be that the boulder was smashed away by a lord? Since nobody was paying attention to him and nobody seemed to be trying to attack him, Luli would not be so silly as to continue his investigation. He stopped using the mark of the Great Path in case other powerful warriors could sense it. However, what happened next scared Luli so much that he trembled. The golden chain slid in an arc and flew toward the boulder he was on. It buried itself into the boulder. The moment the golden chain came in, Luli felt as if he had turned into a child hiding in a cave, and then a huge dragon came out of the cave. Swish, 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 the gazes of the dozens of people outside all turned to look at the boulder. A Lin family lord suddenly let out a surprised cry. There's a breath of life in the boulder. Yes, there's a breath of life in the boulder. I think there's a person inside. A powerful warrior of the dragon rebel race said. They didn't pay attention to the boulder before. Now that they sensed it carefully, they noticed something. But because psychic power was restricted here, or the runes on the boulder were strong, they could not sense it clearly. Luli's heart sank to the bottom when he heard the words of the people outside. He had been discovered. It would be hard for him to escape this time. In the sky and on the ground, there was nowhere for him to run. Nobody could save him. Even if Lu Ling were to beg the powerful warriors of the dragon rebel race, they would not be able to protect him. Luli had no time to worry about the powerful warriors outside. The huge chain had snuck in and was coming toward him. The pressure almost turned Luli into a boneless maggot. He is dead. He is dead. Chapter 25-23. The rune didn't crush Luli to death, but he was like a curled-up earthworm. He couldn't even move his fingers. He could only watch as the golden chain rushed toward him. 300 feet. Luli's bones were cracking. His blood was tumbling, and he had stopped breathing. The dragon's soul in his soul was glowing. He was agitated and fearful. His soul was trembling violently. 100 feet. Bang, 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 bang. Many bones in Luli's body were crushed. He was bleeding from his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth. The power of the golden chain was horrifying. Strong as Luli was, it was not enough. I am dead, I am dead. Luli's bones were cracking when he was still 100 feet away. His soul seemed to be on the verge of collapse. The dragon soul was moving around, but it could not stabilize his soul. 5 feet. Right when Luli thought he was doomed for sure, the traces of the great path in his body began to move on their own. The more than 3,000 traces of the great path glowed faintly and wandered around inside his body. To his surprise, they helped him fend off the might of the chains. When the traces of the great path were activated, the golden chain began to tremble. Then it sped up and dashed toward Luli in a blur. Boom! Under the suppression of the might of the chain, Luli could not stand it any longer. He passed out. The golden chain reached Luli and then penetrated into his body. The golden chain was the size of a human being and was more than 1,000 feet long. But it was only a shadow. When the front part of the golden chain entered Luli's body, the back part followed. The golden chain, with a length of more than 1,000 feet, rushed into Luli's body and disappeared in the end. The unknown demon, King, seemed to be able to see into the rocks. He was taken aback, but he did not break the rocks or attack Luli. He opened one hand and condensed an invisible divine power to imprison the boulder. What? The group of experts surrounding them were also stunned. In the past, when the golden chain went into the stone, it would come out soon. This time, it did not come out. It was hiding in the stone. There was a person in the stone. Was it a powerful warrior hiding in there who was trying to take control of the golden chain? There were still some people from the 4 great powers who weren't here. Could they be experts from the 4 great powers? The nameless demon, the arch, didn't attack, but stood near the rock. No one dared to attack either. They stood nearby in silence and waited for the nameless demon Thearka's next move. Some people vaguely guessed what this giant golden chain was, but most people still didn't know. They only knew that it was a treasure of the world. The reason why they had been chasing was because the nameless demon Tharch had said that the treasure would belong to whoever could subdue it. He would never snatch it. The group of people had been following the nameless demon Tharch. Firstly, it was because of this treasure of heaven and earth. Secondly, they wanted to follow the nameless demon Tharch. He wanted to observe and learn from an Emperor-class powerhouse's methods. If he could gain some insights, it would be better than obtaining any treasures. A moment later, the nameless demon Tharch revealed a look of surprise again. He murmured in a voice that only he could hear, "This kid actually trapped the god sequence chains." The golden chain went into Luli's body. It had shrunk to dozens of times, turning into a small golden dragon that was moving around in Luli's body. The dragon had been trying to get out, but the more than 3,000 traces of the great path were moving quickly. They formed a cage that trapped the golden chain inside Luli's body. Luli had passed out. He had no idea what was going on. Even if he did, he couldn't control it. The giant golden chain scuttled around in his body, but it couldn't escape. The more than 3,000 traces of the great path were shrinking. The range of movement of the golden chain was shrinking as well. Interesting. The nameless demon, the arch, was curious. He had a clear sense of Luli's situation. Luli was just a warrior at the peak of the 3rd tribulation. Even though Luli had cultivated an immortal body, Luli was no different from an ant to the nameless demon, the arch. The nameless demon, the arch, had been chasing after Luli for a long time and had tried many ways, but failed to take control of the golden chain. Now, it was trapped by an insignificant warrior? How could he not be curious about such a strange thing? Time moved on. The nameless demon, the arch, was not in a hurry. He didn't move, nor did the others. The nameless demon, the Arch, was standing right next to the rock. Who dared to attack him? What if the nameless demon, the Arch, was hit by any shock wave? The nameless demon, the Arch, kept staring at the rock. The others could sense something, but they could not tell what was going on inside. Only a few of them could tell that there was a person inside, but they could not tell who it was. After the time for one incense stick to burn, the nameless demon, Thearka's eyes glowed. He was even more surprised. The more than 3,000 traces of the great path in Luli's body had turned the golden chain. No, it had become a small golden chain. The 3,000 traces of the great path had entangled the small golden chain. Now, the small golden chain could not move. The traces of the great path had begun to corrode the small golden chain, or to be exact, to devour it. One of the traces of the great path gave out a holy glow that devoured the small golden chain bit by bit. At the same time, the trace of the great path began to turn golden. What is that? The nameless demon, the Arch, was surprised. He was experienced and knowledgeable, but he had never seen the traces of the great path in Luli's body. More importantly, the nameless demon, the Arch, could not understand how a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation could have such strange means. Another hour passed. The small golden chain was completely devoured, and one of the traces of the great path had turned golden as well. The 3,000 traces of the great path wandered back to where Luli carved them. Luli's body had calmed down. His body's self-healing ability began to work. Luli's wounds began to heal. What a marvelous technique! The nameless demon, the Arch, murmured. From the beginning to the end, he did not take any action. There was no killing intent in his eyes. Instead, he was exclaiming. After a moment of thought, he suddenly opened his hand and swept toward the rock. Buzzing, a ripple spread out. The rock gradually shrank. In the end, the nameless demon, the Arch, grabbed it in his hand. The nameless demon, the Arch, turned to the others nearby and said, "Treasures in heaven and earth belong to the fated. We are not fated. Don't force it. I will leave now. Take your time to explore. This is indeed a land of treasures refined by a saint emperor. Explore it carefully. Maybe you will all gain something." Whoosh! With that said, the nameless demon, the Arch, vanished into the distance with the rock in his hand. In an instant, he vanished without a trace. The others looked at each other, confused. What did the nameless demon, the Arch, mean? Didn't he bring this stone because he wanted to slowly refine the sky-spanning giant chain? Why did he say that they were not fated? But what the nameless demon, the Arch, said next shocked everyone. The words of a powerful warrior of the great emperor realm could be trusted. It was confirmed that this was a land of treasures refined by a saint emperor. If they could explore it carefully, there was a chance that they could gain something. Chapter 25-24. Luli didn't know how long he had slept, whether it was 2 hours or several hours or days and nights. When he woke up, he couldn't move at all. His bones hadn't healed yet. He was in so much pain that he was smoking. Out of instinct, he tried to use psychic power. To his surprise, he could use it again. He was lying on the peak of a hill. Next to him was a green-haired young man. The green-haired young man was extremely handsome. At this moment, he was standing by himself leisurely. In his hand was a jar of wine, and he was leisurely drinking it. "You are awake?" The green-haired young man did not look at Luli. Instead, he gazed at the mountains and rivers in the distance. There was no energy coming from him. He seemed to be an average person. Nameless demon emperor. Luli was taken aback. He made up his mind. He struggled to get up, clasped his fists, and said, "Lord, I am Luli." Because his bones had not completely healed, any movement would cause his mouth to twitch in pain. At this moment, he was barely standing, but his whole body was trembling, and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. He had to do this out of respect for a powerful warrior and for his own life. If a great emperor offended him with any disrespect, Luli could be killed as easily as crushing an ant. The nameless demon emperor said nothing. He did not seem to notice that Luli was trembling. Luli kept bowing and remained in the posture of worship. The nameless demon emperor kept on drinking. After the time for one incense stick to burn, He turned around and said, "Sit down. If I want to kill you, it doesn't matter whether you salute or not." Luli was relieved. It seemed that the nameless demon emperor would not kill him. Luli stopped being pretentious. He controlled his body to sit with his legs crossed. He used psychic power to check and was surprised. "Lord, are we outside the land of treasure?" "Yes." The nameless demon emperor nodded. "I have brought you out. What, do you want to keep exploring? You have obtained the most valuable treasure in this land of treasure. Are you still not satisfied?" Luli was shocked, confused. He thought about it, but did not rush to ask. Instead, he checked his body. Looking inside his body, he discovered that apart from many broken bones, there was nothing different in his body. No. He recalled what happened before he fainted. He was shocked. It was as if the golden chain had rushed into his body. Since he didn't die, was the golden chain still in his body? He probed again and quickly discovered that something was different. Among the more than 3,000 great path marks that were inscribed in his body, one of them had actually turned dark gold. His eyes widened as though he had seen a ghost in broad daylight. He looked at the nameless demon, the Arch, and asked, "Sir, what's going on?" "Those things are called God's sequence chains." The nameless demon, the Arch, explained, "You wouldn't understand what a God sequence chain is even if I explained it to you now. You can understand it this way. This thing is one of the most mysterious and powerful treasures in the world. How to use it? How to refine it? Don't ask me. I don't know either because I've never obtained it before. I've only read some historical records." God sequence chains. Luli was shocked again, not to mention anything else. He could feel the preciousness of this thing just from these 4 words. The nameless demon, the Arch, also said that this was one of the most mysterious and powerful treasures in the world. Luli didn't even know how to use it or how to refine it. A treasure that even a warrior of the great Emperor realm didn't know how to use must be more powerful than a holy weapon. Wait a minute. Luli suddenly remembered that an innocent man would get into trouble because of his wealth. If the outside world knew about this treasure, there would be no place for him in the third heaven or even the entire world. What was more, the nameless demon, the Arch, had been after the chain for a long time and failed to subdue it. Now that Luli had it, would the nameless demon, the Arch, take it away? What? In a split of a second, Luli made up his mind. "Sir, it is a waste to keep the chain with me. I am not powerful enough, and I don't think I can take control of it. How about, sir, you take this thing out of my body? I don't think I will be able to sleep well when I have it with me. Sooner or later, I will be torn into pieces." "Ha ha ha." Luli's words amused the nameless demon, the Arch. The nameless demon, the Arch, squinted at Luli, took a sip of wine, and said, "You know fear now? You are bold enough to sneak into that land of treasure. Aren't you afraid that the 4 forces will hunt you down? With your pitiful strength, any lord would be able to kill you in one move." "Ha ha." Luli smiled embarrassedly. He had a good impression of a nameless demon, the Arch. He didn't feel pressured when facing a super important figure. Instead, Luli found the nameless demon, the Arch, amiable. Luli said with a smile, "I went in to look for someone. I didn't intend to get any treasures. You know that I hid in the rock because I was afraid that someone would find me. I wanted to sneak away. It is all thanks to you that I managed to come out. Otherwise, I would have been killed by the 4 forces. Sir, I'm sincere. Please get this thing out of my body. Otherwise, I'll definitely be torn to shreds by the people from the 4 great powers." "Don't worry. They don't know." The nameless demon, the Arch, waved his hand and said, "The 4 forces will think that I have it and they don't know about you. They can't sense your situation. So, you're safe for now. Of course, unless you show off to the world that you have the divine chains of order. In that case, there is nothing you can do." "What?" Luli was confused. The nameless demon, the Arch, didn't seem to want the divine chains of order. Was he not tempted at all? The nameless demon, the Arch, seemed to have read Luli's mind. He said, "I've been tracking the divine chains of order for a long time, and I have tried many ways. But I failed. Since they have chosen you, then they are not meant to be with me. If so, why do I have to force it? Everything has its own destiny. Only by being indifferent can one be free and unfettered." The breeze was gentle. The nameless demon emperor's cyan robe danced in the wind. His green hair danced in the wind. His handsome face was calm and at ease. Luli was impressed by his temperament and grace. Luli took 2 healing pellets and sat down. He cupped his fists and said, "Lord, can you tell me your name? I'm not talented. In the future, if I can achieve something, I will repay your kindness." "Ha ha." The nameless demon, the arch, smiled indifferently and waved his hand. "I've forgotten my own name. Let's not talk about this. The reason why I brought you out is that I'm curious about the thousands of heaven god patterns in your body. Marks of the great Tao." Luli thought about it. Eventually, he told the nameless demon the arch in detail how he carved the marks of the great Tao. The nameless demon, the arch, listened carefully. Chapter 25:25. The nameless demon emperor left. He might have brought Luli out because he wanted to ask Luli about the traces of the great Tao, or he didn't want the 4 forces to get the chains of order. He said nothing after he asked Luli a few questions. He waved his hand and vanished on the spot, not caring that Luli was still injured. After the nameless demon emperor left, Luli hurried to heal himself. He must leave as soon as possible. If the 4 forces found out, he would be in big trouble. Needless to say, when Shui, Yuero, and the others came out, they would mobilize forces from the Hall of Watercloud to hunt him down. He had killed so many warriors of the Hall of Watercloud and challenged the dignity of the Hall of Watercloud. It could even be said that he had humiliated the Hall of Watercloud. Luli consumed some elixirs and healed himself. In half a day, he had recovered more than half of his strength. He didn't dare to stay any longer. He changed his looks with the shape-shifting mask and flew away. He picked a random direction to look for a city. He had made a deal with Tian Yazi. Tian Yazi must be waiting for him nearby. There was a small city nearby. Luli used teleportation formations for more than a dozen times and settled down in a middle-sized city. He left a mark outside the tavern and waited in there. He didn't have to wait too long. After a day and a half, the castle's door was opened and a figure flashed in. He wore a loose Taoist robe and had a white beard. His face was filled with kindness. Who else could it be but Tian Yazi? "Brother." Luli stood up at once, as if he had seen a family member. Tian Yazi had helped him without reservation, which made Luli grateful. Tian Yazi walked in casually. He took out 2 jars of wine and handed one to Luli. "How is it, Lu? Did you get anything? Did you see your sister? Also, how did you get out?" Actually, Luli had been struggling over the past couple of days. He wondered if he should tell Tian Yazi about the chains of order. It was too important. If word got out, Luli would be in big trouble. But Tian Yazi had been so kind to him. Luli would feel guilty if he kept it a secret. Looking at Tian Yazi's sincere eyes, Luli was touched. He decided to tell Tian Yazi everything. If Tian Yazi wanted to harm him and steal the God sequence chains, then he would just have to admit that he had misjudged him. "Yes, I did. I've gained a lot too." Luli took a deep breath and told her everything that happened after he went in without leaving anything out, including how he killed warriors of the Hall of Watercloud, the nameless demon emperor, and the chains of order. After listening, Tian Yazi was moved. He then struck out a stream of divine power to activate the divine rune restriction of the castle. He pondered for a moment and asked, "Little Lu, apart from the nameless demon the arch, you didn't tell anyone else about this, right?" "Yes." Luli nodded and said, "I only told you, big brother. Actually, you shouldn't have even told me about this." Tian Yazi said solemnly, "Big brother is very grateful for your trust, but this matter is too big. Once it gets out, even the nameless demon emperor can't protect you, let alone me." "Thank you, big brother." Luli was touched. He was right about Tian Yazi. Tian Yazi didn't have any intention of competing with him. Instead, Tian Yazi was always thinking about Luli. This man was truly good to Luli. "Good," Tian Yazi said with a smile. "You really are a man of great fortune. I don't know much about the God sequence chains, but since the nameless demon emperor said so, It must be a treasure that can transform your abilities. Work hard. In the future, you may surpass me. When you become an Emperor Realm warrior, you must take care of the whole family. Big brother, you know what kind of person I am. Luli said seriously, to me, you are my big brother, and the whole family is my second home. If I can achieve something, the whole family's business will be my business. Ha ha ha. Tian Yazi laughed. He patted Lu Li's shoulder affectionately and said, Little Lu, I was right about you. Well, you did the right thing about your sister. She is valued by the Dragon Rebel race. I heard that she has something to do with the Dragon Rebel race. Also, when she becomes a Lord Warrior, the seal on her memory will be unlocked. She will come to you. Okay, what is your plan now? Are you going back to your hometown or cultivating in the third heaven? Well, I have something to say. The whole family welcomes you. If you come, you will be treated like a patriarch with real power. If you don't want to, it's okay. You can live on the Great Buddha Mountain however you like. Tian Yazi's honesty made Luli feel comfortable. He thought about it and said, Big brother, does the whole family have an honorary patriarch? If not, an honorary deacon will do. I don't want a patriarch with real power. In the future, as long as I can do something for the whole family, I will not say no. I want to go back to the second heaven. As for my future, I haven't decided yet. Maybe I will feel bored living in the second heaven for dozens of years, and then I will go back to the third heaven. Okay, then I will be an honorary patriarch. Tian Yazi made up his mind. He thought about it and said, I suggest you go to the Great Buddha Mountain and live for a while. First of all, keep a low profile for a while. When this storm blows over, at least the water cloud hall will stop tracking you down. Second, you can reach the fourth tribulation at the Great Buddha Mountain. Also, we have a place where you can refine your body. You can cultivate there for a while. Okay. Thank you, big brother. Luli thought about it and thought Tian Yazi was right. He was in the limelight now. The Water Cloud Hall, Fan family, and Lin family would track him down soon. Tian Yazi couldn't escort him to the second heaven. Even if Tian Yazi wanted to, Luli wouldn't agree. He was not a kid anymore. His comprehensive abilities were comparable to those of the fifth tribulation. He could protect himself. Also, it would be easier for him to go through the fourth heaven tribulation with Tian Yazi's help. At the fourth heaven tribulation, his comprehensive abilities would be improved, and he wouldn't stand out so much. Otherwise, if he could kill warriors of the fifth tribulation as a warrior at the peak of the third tribulation, he would attract too much attention. The Asmodean Lord was looking after the second heaven. Nothing should go wrong. He had been out for so many years anyway. Another 8 or 10 years didn't matter. He needed time to explore the divine chains of order. If he could use them, his abilities might soar. Then let's go. Tian Yazi led Luli out. Outside, Tian Yazi changed his looks. At the same time, he restrained his chi and energy so that he was only at the fifth tribulation. In this way, he wouldn't stand out. He stepped into the teleportation formation with Luli. After teleporting for more than 10 times, they arrived at a manor outside a small town. This was a secret base of the Hua family. The space gate here had been set up. Tian Yazi led Luli to the Great Buddha Mountain. Chapter 25-26. During the 2 months, Luli didn't step out of the door. He had been cultivating in the castle of the ethereal cliff. Apart from a few people in power in the Hua family, nobody else knew that Luli had returned to the Great Buddha Mountain. Many people had forgotten about Luli's existence. The exploration at Mount Yuding had not ended yet, but the young people had all come out. Out of the 120 young people who had entered, only 60 or 70 came out. It could be said that they had suffered heavy casualties. Especially at the back of the Water Cloud Hall, there were even casualties. Only 4 people managed to make it out alive. The Hall of Water Cloud began to investigate secretly as well. They searched for information about Lu Li and his whereabouts. Lin family and Fan family sent people to search as well. None of them found any trace of Lu Li. They searched several floors to no avail. They all suspected that Lu Li had come out. When the Dragon Rebel race came out, they sent the message to the Dragon Rebel flying team. Seeing that Lu Ling was in low spirits, the Dragon Rebel flying team flew into a rage. They ordered their subordinates to search for Lu Li as well. Tian Yazi went to Lu Li's room after he got the accurate information. He came straight to the point and said, "You may need to hide for a while. Many people know that you opened the portal to the Great Buddha Mountain from the Dragon Rebel Valley. I think they will come to the Great Buddha Mountain soon. Our Hua family also has spies bribed by the major powers, so it's not safe for you to stay here." Luli nodded. The Hua family was powerful, but not even the Hua family could stand against the alliance of the four forces. The Hua family would not fight against the four forces for the sake of Lu Li. He nodded and said, "All right, I'll leave now and head to the Silver Flame Sea region." "You've misunderstood." Tian Yazi waved his hand. "I don't mean for you to leave the Hua clan, but to go to one of our secret realms. I've told you before that the mystic realm is very suitable for tempering your body. It's also often sealed. I've arranged for someone to arrange it for you. During this time, the family won't arrange for anyone to go in. You can go into seclusion for a period of time. You'll be fine after this gust of wind passes." "This," Lu Li asked with concern, "Brother, will you and the Hua family get into trouble?" "Ha ha ha," Tian Yazi proudly said. "You're looking down on your big brother too much. Don't worry, they won't dare to rashly start a war with our Hua clan as long as they don't have conclusive evidence. Furthermore, you killed a few young disciples from Watercloud Hall. That's not a big deal." "All right." Looking at Tian Yazi's confident expression, Lu Li decided not to be pretentious. Given the current situation, even if he went to the Silver Flame Sea region, he would most likely be hunted down by the experts dispatched by the Watercloud Hall. It would be better for him to lie low for a while. Tian Yazi arranged for him to enter a castle, and then teleported away through the castle's teleportation array. After a flash of white light, Lu Li found himself in a strange world. This world was a world of water. After he entered, he appeared on a small island. Outside the island was a sea. The sea here was different from ordinary seas. The seawater here was a grayish-gold color, and the waves were extremely terrifying. There was a divine rune barrier around the island, and the seawater constantly smashed against the barrier, creating sounds of metal cracking. We call this mystic realm the Gold Water Realm. A patriarch that showed Lu Li and explained, "The seawater here is a special kind of golden water. It is very dense and strong. Average warriors at the initial stage of the Four Tribulation would be shocked to death by the waves. This has always been a place for warriors above the middle stage of the Four Tribulation to refine their bodies. There's a huge whirlpool in the center. The closer you are to the whirlpool, the more horrifying the waves will be. Patriarch Lu, I suggest you refine your body on the periphery first and then move toward the center. You cannot go to the center unless your body is as strong as that of the Lord Realm." Lu Li nodded. Since it was a gradual process, then it shouldn't be a problem. He nodded to the old man, who took him to a teleportation formation. Lu Li disappeared as soon as he stepped in. He found himself on another small island. But there was no divine rune barrier on this island, and the waves would come in from time to time. Before Lu Li could check, he was hit by the waves. Bang! Lu Li was smashed away. He wasn't injured, but he felt his blood was tumbling. There seemed to be a mysterious force entering his body. Lu Li felt he was being bitten by ants. This is good. Lu Li felt refreshed. His muscles were being bitten by ants, which meant that his muscles were being refined. In other words, his muscles were being refined and would grow stronger. Lu Li sensed that the Xian Qi in heaven and earth was strong as well. This was a good place for cultivation. Lu Li flew up and dived into the sea. Splash, 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 waves kept falling on him. This time, Lu Li was prepared. He stood still and let the waves beat him. With each wave, more and more mysterious energy surged into Lu Li's body. He felt like he was being bitten by ants, numb and painful at the same time. This pain was nothing for Lu Li. He didn't mind. He stood in the sea for a while and then sat down with his legs crossed, letting the waves beat him like a rock. After sitting for 2 hours, Lu Li was confident. This was indeed a land of treasures, a good place for the Hua family. Only the higher-ups or the top disciples of the Hua family were qualified to come here. Luli walked on the waves. The current intensity was too low. He needed to refine at a higher intensity. As long as his body could stand it, he would be fine with some injuries. He flew for the time for one incense stick to burn. The waves were getting stronger, but Luli could stand it, so he kept on. After the time for one incense stick to burn, the waves were 100 times stronger than before. Luli could not stand it anymore. Every time, he would be smashed away by the waves. This is it. Luli sat with his legs crossed and floated in the sea. The waves would beat him over and over again. Every time, he would move for dozens of feet. His chi and blood would tremble, but he was not injured. At first, Luli found it hard to cultivate quietly, but gradually he got used to it. He ignored the waves and focused on cultivating divine energy. At the same time, he began to think of a way to dissolve that divine chain of order. He had been studying for 2 months, but to no avail. He couldn't move or activate these God sequence chains either. Even though it was inside his body, he felt it had nothing to do with him. He was not in a hurry. If the chain could be dissolved and activated at will, then it would be of little use. Not even the nameless demon emperor knew how to dissolve it or use it. It was a testament to the power and abstruseness of the chain. Luli decided to study the trace of the Great Tao first. Since the chain had become a part of the trace of the Great Tao, he might be able to activate it when he could have a deeper understanding of the trace of the Great Tao. Splash, 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 that you're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.